Good afternoon, everyone. um, Thank you so much. We appreciate all of you being here in these difficult times. Definitely not death by PowerPoint from my side. I just wanted to say hello to everybody and then just introduce the team to you quickly. And maybe go over the agenda. But you all have an agenda in your pouch, so please feel free to go through the agenda on your own time. This is not the entire RIC, it's just the team that's here today. Our founder on your left, Dawn de Wright, she's based in Cape Town, in Johannesburg, my apologies. Then Marco, co-owner, he is based in Cape Town. Murray, our marketing manager, based in Johannesburg, right at the back. I'm sure you all met Murray. Then Sean, our, what do we call you? Everything. Then Leander, very senior developer, based in Cape Town, and myself, general manager, based in Johannesburg. And then just a quick overview of RIC organization, established in 2000. So we are celebrating our 21st year this year, hopefully with a party if COVID permits. We've been trying to do this since last year. If you look at our history, it's definitely in data warehousing. Dawn started her career in Cognos and then just moved over towards Click. In 2008, we became an official Click partner. And yes, as you can see, we've grown from a very small organization to a substantial organization over the last couple of years. We also started an intern program in 2019 where we basically take youngsters through the Click environment, getting them on board. Majority of our interns have joined RIC, and our latest program has just started now, the 1st of March. And then, just to take you through a bit of history on the Click environment in South Africa, it's changed substantially since 2019, when the master reseller was no longer, and Click signed directly with some of the strategic partners. We then became a select partner in 2020, 2019, towards the end of the year. And with all the luck we had with COVID, we actually became an elite partner, which means we've got far better closer relationships with Click. And it's really, for us, a huge thing to, in a year like last year, to actually move to an elite status. And it will definitely mean a lot for you guys as well. And from my side, I'm not going to go through all the details. We will share all the information with you afterwards, and then you can read through everything on your own. And I'm handing over to Sean.
Cool. So while Leander just opens up the presentation, I just want to say, not at all to sound condescending, but I'm proud of all of you for getting out of your pajamas and leaving the banana bread at home and venturing out into the wide world. But I must admit, I'm very excited to see humans. It's, not TVs. It wouldn't be as fun as screens. But it's really nice to see humans. So what I'm going to do is I'm business strategist. I've taken on the role at RIC to really look at the region and what you saw in our agenda talking about evolving BI. And I think you'll find it's not quite what you think it is. And when I say evolving, I think what you'll find quite a lot from these presentations is people talking about the future and robots and the machines are coming. And yes, there is that aspect, and we know that there is these kinds of technologies. But I think I want to take you on a bit of a journey, and from an RIC point of view in the region, based on our experience over the last 10 or 15 years, I think there are some challenges and some things that haven't necessarily been dealt with very well yet. So that's kind of our concept of evolving, which I'll talk you through, is actually going back to and heading head on these realist or real world challenges that are out there before we just talk about the nice future stuff. So I'm going to take you through that. I think what I want to do first of all, though, let me find this clicker. What I want to do first of all, considering the world we're in now, is I want to try to, if you indulge me for a second, I'm going to play you a video. I want to try to elevate you out of the traffic and dropping the kids at school and the work challenges and the lack of budgets and the politics and all the things we get caught up in. And I wonder if you can try to take today and this presentation and look at it through a lens of optimism. Okay, and I say that because I've just found for myself what I've always loved in technology is to look at what you can do with it and think in lines of what is possible, and as Terence McKenna says, the adjacent possible. Not to think about what we can't do, but what would business look like if we could actually achieve these things. So forgetting about what's out of the way, thinking and looking at the possibilities of what are there. So what I want to do is introduce you. Well, let me just tell you quickly what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk a little bit about this We Are More, and as I said, to get you out of that, potentially that shell that we've all been in for a while. I want to take you from the evolution point of view back through a little bit of a journey to remind us all where BI came from and kind of where it's evolved to over the couple of years. And then I want to actually apply us and you as customers or partners this real world lens of where are we on this journey and how aligned are they? Because I think you'll probably agree that in a lot of cases there is a bit of a mismatch in that timing. And then when we look at that real world and we talk about the kind of themes that I've come across a lot, we'll just present to you very briefly what the RIC strategy then is how we're going to tackle these head on. And that's the kind of real world problems. So I want to introduce you to a guy I met, I think it was about 4 years ago at a Click Connections event in, I think it was Miami. I don't know if you guys know him, Jason Silver. Those that have been to some of our SA Click events might recognize him because I started to use. So he inspires me greatly. And I love, he's got this very excited, for some it's quite excitable, but he's got this real, as I said, this lens and this ability to frame where technology fits, you know, with us as humans. And I love the way he applies it to people. Because I think what's been lost quite often, and I suppose this recent year and this pandemic, if anything, has really kind of reminded us, everything is around people. So, you know, you as people, us as people, our users, everything is really around us as people. And I like the way he frames the fitting of technology to that, as opposed to technology in isolation. So I want to share this video with you just to kind of elevate you and get you onto that thinking pattern, and then I'll start taking you through the story.
There's a wonderful and extremely romantic idea cited by Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple Computer. And it's a romanticized view of technology and the idea of human beings being a tool-making animal, right? We use our technologies as scaffoldings that allow us to overcome our boundaries and transcend our limitations. And the idea that Steve Jobs cited had to do with a study that was done on the efficiency of locomotion of all animal species. That is, how many calories, how much energy did they expend to get from point A to point B? And the animal at the top of the list that scored the highest was the condor, right? The condor was top of the list in terms of efficiency of locomotion. The least amount of energy to get the farthest distance. Human beings were like a third of the way down the list. Like just nothing impressive whatsoever. But get this, you give a human being a bicycle and it rises to the top of the list. A human being with a bicycle immediately reaches the top of the list of efficiency of locomotion to get from point A to point B with the least amount of energy expended. So a tool, an instrument, like a bicycle, transforms the capacities of this animal and puts it at the top of the chain for efficiency of locomotion. And so what Jobs said was he likened the computer as a bicycle for the mind.
A computer has always been a bicycle of the mind.
With the Industrial Revolution, we transcended the limits of our muscles. With the digital revolution, we transcend the limits of our minds. Terence McKenna said the man-made world is the condensation of human imagination. Kevin Kelly says that technology is the seventh kingdom of life. He calls it the technium, right? A living organism with the same evolutionary forces as biological evolution. Our tools have become scaffoldings of mind. And my friends, the sky's the limit in our capacity to engender our dreams. Our tools are psychedelic, my friends. The word psychedelic means to manifest mind. And what is this tool, if not the embodiment and literalization of mind, right? This has become the condensation of human imagination. I phone, therefore I am. I design, therefore I become. These tools and technologies have become non-specific amplifiers of consciousness, and so it is up to the It is up to the apparatus, the cognitive apparatus employing these tools and technologies that are extending its capacity that will determine how we use these tools in the world and whether we will make this a better world and engender a utopia beyond time and create nirvana. Positively touch a billion people, address the grand challenges of humanity. The psychedelic dream of expanding our minds has been literalized. When psychedelics meet cybernetics, we call it cyberdelics. We live in a cyberdelic world. Take responsibility. And let's make our dreams come true.
Yeah, he just always gets me going, right? But I think, doesn't he beautifully frame why we're really here? I mean, what was the purpose of business intelligence in the first place? What is the purpose of data, right? If we look at users, it's all about the user. And like Jeff Bezos says, they're infatuated with customer. In the BI space, in my mind, we should be absolutely infatuated with that user, because at the end of the day, the value that you gain is really from those users using it to make decisions. And if we look at this concept of the technology extending from them, that's what I see as a journey with BI. It's around making me able to think faster, make quicker decisions, react quicker, and the way he frames it in a much more beautiful way is just exactly that. It's around those users or the business and actually applying it and extending it, which I think he frames really nicely. But evolution, so if we talk the word evolve, right, it's worth just confirming because everybody has a different view of things, but it's really to evolve gradually. But if we look at the analytics journey as a whole in BI, and this is very loosely summed up, but if we look at these gaps, in the 90s, everything that could be computerized became computerized, right? So there's data out there. It becomes more and more. From the 2000s and kind of mid-2000s, 2010 was the rise of BI. And then we went through all these different phases in between that some of you will remember. Like Gartner called it the consumerization of BI. So when we had the rise of the iPhone and the iPads, all us as business users and individuals started becoming a lot more empowered. So as a user, I could go and answer any question, right? I could get an app, download something, get an answer, Google it. And then we go to business or we go to work, and here we get told to start working with spreadsheets and all these drop-downs and funny things. So it wasn't really natural, and I think that's where that shift happened, where we started seeing the rise of this kind of self-service, I want to be empowered, I need to answer questions quickly, and they started demanding that same kind of functionality and efficiency in business, which we started to get to. And they talk about the 2000s as self-service, and of course the next level, which is around smart data discovery and natural language and AI and the machines. So that's kind of the journey that the tech's been on, and this is the journey that the analysts go on, right? They take us, every year there's something new that we need to look at. But I think there's a challenge with this, because there are I call it the adoption timeline. There is an adoption curve that doesn't, and feel free to agree if you put your hand up, that doesn't match the analysts, and it doesn't match the technology timeline. And that is this real world of a business timeline. And that's around business maturity and the capability and the culture. So what you have, if you see under this adoption timeline, is over here you've got this inflated expectations, right? This is that first part. You'll all recall those times when we say we're doing self-service, and it's almost like that Oprah moment, You're getting data, everybody's getting data. And then 2 years later, no one has it yet, right? So that start like, wow, we're really, really excited to get it, but it doesn't happen. So why is that? And that's the kind of question we've been asking for years. So you have this moment where everybody's excited. There's this kind of chasm and a bit of disillusionment. And as it peaks out, the actual productivity or the output from this kind of tapers down. And that's a shame, because that is the real part. When we talk about BI, business intelligence becomes valuable when you really get it out to people at that point of decision. But these things haven't been happening at that same kind of pace. So that's why I refer to that reality. So if we look at this journey, if we break it down not into years, but kind of a maturity level discussion around BI, you've got the descriptive part, which is the beginning, right, which is around traditional type reporting. Then you wanted to move into a world that we wanted to be more predictive. So as a business user, I wanted to try to see what's going to be happening next. Can I predict some sort of increase in a number or a decrease? And that's kind of where Clicker's always played very well. Right? It's not necessarily predictive, but I can look at past trends, look at the future, where we're heading to, and I'm empowered to try to avoid that. The exciting parts for everyone is really when it gets to this prescriptive side, collaborating, and the cognitive side. But you'll see that a key part of this is around optimization and learning. Now, if any of you put your hands up here, if you think that your business culture is completely data-driven, and that your data literacy is complete. Like everybody in your business is data literate and can work with data. No. No, that's not at all, right? So there's this optimization in the learning part that is a bit of a gap. So in my mind, to get there, we need to kind of unpack and understand what is this optimization part and what is this barrier? What is it that we've been stopping? And that's why I said the story, even though we're talking about evolution, it's not actually about just the future. If we look at the real world, it's about actually looking at the challenges and the things around foundational type things and the core business practices and the core kind of applications or functions you need in a business to be able to then reach that scale and expand out. And this is what we're doing as a region from an RIC point of view, is we're trying to hit these head on as a foundation to start off with. And as I said, it's not without or taking away from the beautiful technology, it's there. But we need to do the things. And I think the comparison they give around tactical and strategic is tactical is doing things right, whereas strategic is doing the right things. So I think it's kind of a mind shift with that. But what I did is I went, we've been talking about people, and I went back to a Gartner Hype Cycle article again in 2019. I'm going to use that as most recent because 2020 wasn't really there. So I don't think anything moved on very much. But 2019, they talked about the 5 major trends that are going to be shaping the evolution of analytics. There's always a new one. What I liked about this one is you'll notice that all of these points are actually talking to the human factor. Okay? The trends they're talking to you are not, is there machine learning? That's not too new, right? That's out there. Are there dashboards? No. What they're talking about when you unpack these, if you go read the report, augmented analytics is saying we need to get people to, we need to extend data to people and allow them to actually augment their practice, as I mentioned earlier, around how they do certain functions, right? This is not new to us. This is not new to the click concept or a lot of us in BI. But you'll see Gartner's picking up on it. Now, I know Gartner's just an indicator, and it's not necessarily something you'd use as a lead, but I like the fact that they're identifying it now. All right, which means there's a bigger realization that it is the case. So you've got augmented analytics, we've got the digital culture, right? And what does that talk to again? That talks to data literacy and an actual culture of data discovery, or people that are really inquisitive. Not the ones that don't want to work with it, but actually getting people to be excited about the possibilities of what we can do with that information. Relationship and analytics is collaboration. Decision intelligence is around making sure it's valid, and as a team and business unit heads, you can actually collaborate around it. But all of these things, as I say, I'm not going to go into detail around them. The point is I like the fact that it's identifying that it's all around humans. It's all around people, and that is at the core of BI. And I think taking that approach or mindset might change the trajectory of how you approach these kinds of projects. Because to me, it has to start with that. And I think sometimes, and all of us in corporates, we get caught up in these pods or these silos of doing all kinds of very clever things. But if you try to tie it back to the business, it might be doing no good to them, or they don't even know what you have, right? I see you're nodding there, Adrian. It's quite a common thing. So that's just kind of technology personified. But what I'm saying is sometimes you do need to take a step back to move forward, right? And I think this is where we want to talk about the real world of BI. And there's kind of four recurring themes that I've been asked about over the last 10 years, whether it's enterprise or small customers. These things have been popping up over and over. And as we've been sitting with a strategy and looking at what we need to do and where's the biggest value going to be, these things were lying there, and I looked at them and I said, well, have they been solved? And I don't really think they have. And feel free to let me know. But the first one was visibility, because we go through this path of visualization tools and reporting, and we're all excited. And then guess what happens? There's more competitors, and you have 1 tool, 2 tools, 3 tools, and the finance department just does their thing, and you start having this big spread out kind of reporting and analytics functions, and you don't know what there is. So one of the big themes, especially in enterprise, has been visibility across all of these data assets. How do I know, and how can I plan or use an information strategy if I don't even know what I have at first? So I think that's one of the key things we need to look at, is around visibility. How are we going to address getting a view, not just of what your data resources are there, but we talk about data assets, the valuable resources of what you really have. Impact and efficacy has always been there, which is we have Cognos, we have Tableau, we've got Click, we've got reports, we've got all these things. They go out. Some of them we don't know where they go to. If we switch it off, we get a complaint, but they go out to places. What is the value and the impact of these things? Is anybody actually using them? How much are they using them? And what is the impact of them? And this has been coming up over and over. So this is something we started, tying into from our strategy. And as I said, as we go on a bit later, some of our partners are going to present and explain to you and unpack how and why we've selected them, and they've selected us to work really closely with to start addressing these challenges in SA. So we've got some very incredible tools and teams we'll be working with. Governance is always there, and this ties back to the multiple tools and the self-service component. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I've seen self-service not be implemented properly. It's because you don't have the proper governance in place, and I don't mean restriction governance. I just mean that ability to give someone confidence. And I was talking to someone earlier in here, and we talk about users having access to these things, but very often they just don't have the confidence. They'll tell you, I don't want to touch it, because if I get it wrong, I get into trouble. So it's kind of just making sure they have the safe, correct area to do what they do, but in a governed manner. Okay, and that's something we'll be talking about. Same around the development or DevOps type concept. And then cost management's always there, right? We're in the real world, so you need to manage costs. But for me, cost has always been relative. There is a different part of cost. Now if we look at traditional IT, when I say traditional IT, I mean the concept of IT, and there's many of these. I just put 2 quotes up. You guys all have seen many of these. We know that IT budgets are usually 60, 70% just to keep the lights on. Okay, very little around innovation and next level, right? You're just trying to maintain the status quo and keep the lights on. So it's not generally built that way, but how do you move, or how do you work within that from a innovation point of view within a tiny budget when there's no space? What you need to do is you need to move IT or your practice from a cost component, being a cost center, to actually being transformative, okay, to actually driving revenue, driving growth in the business, or delivering against the actual business strategy. We've seen that work in a lot of great businesses. There are some in the room here that have been very successful in doing it, and it's exciting, it's amazing. When I say transformative, I mean they're literally steering the business. The entire strategy is going on what the data says, what the business says, and they're making these things happen. And it's really exciting when you get to that. And again, just going back to the first video, it's kind of, that's what I want to do. I want to encourage you to just think about not what limitations there are on your business, but kind of start getting into that mindset of exploring what there is. Can we take this next level? You know, what happens if we get it right? Not what happens if we get it wrong. What happens if we get this right? Can we change the business? That's the part that's always excited me about BI. But I think, again, if I look over the last couple of years, we kind of get into that trough where the excitement's there and it just starts tapering off because we're just trying to keep the lights on and the excitement drops. But there's a way to do it. We're pretty confident that we have a way to do that. So from an RIC point of view, I'm going to refer to it as our foundation for evolution. So what we're saying is BI is evolving. Technology is there. There's great things you can do. But we want to have the foundation in place. And we think we can add the most value there by helping you get that in place, because that's how you will eventually scale and be able to implement automation. I said automation. Automation. So if you look over here from a maturity level point of view, I think this is a more realistic and pragmatic look at where you are when we talk about business intelligence and IT, right? It's not about a timeline or a tech timeline. It's actually saying what are the kind of competencies and steps we take. And you'll look in the cost space when you start off, you've got your traditional reporting, and very often businesses move into the kind of opportunistic space next, which is let's start grabbing data, let's try to solve problems as we go along. Sometimes successful, but it's just jumping at reactively, you know, at certain instances where we find an opportunity with data. As you move up the stream, you start implementing standards, or should be. Again, we're not saying that everybody has implemented it properly, but you should be getting these standards in place then to make sure that you know these are aligning with what your strategy is, because you have this vision from an information point of view. And when we get to enterprise level, this is where, you know, we have proper strategic level sponsorship. You have CFO, you have CEO, you have someone on board really driving that vision. And you know, without having that executive level buy-in, that's where your culture drives from as well. Right? So unless there is that buy-in and that vision that we are all behind what we're going to be doing and what value data is to us, it doesn't really succeed. So this part starts potentially falling flat. And guess where we just don't get to sometimes? It's the actual transformative part. Okay, we don't actually get there. And the beauty is you're so close to it, but that is the part that changes you from being a cost center to being transformative. And as I say, in the room here, you guys are surrounded by a really great audience. There are some people that have done this very well, but there are all these steps along the way. So what we've done is I've just kind of divided it up into 4 simple steps. That's not my poor writing. That's his laptop that's changed it. I don't make small mistakes like that. So we kind of divided up into 4 key areas. As we're plotting this out, we're saying, how do we take these common themes that have been out there for a long time, How do we kind of put them into buckets? It'll evolve, but it's just a basic overview. And let's say over here we start off with this visibility, right? Visibility in two forms. The one is around what do I have? I don't think any of you would disagree that if you don't know what you have, you cannot decide what to keep or what to get rid of or where you're going, right? So you have to have that. Anybody in this room, and it's just out of interest, does anybody in this room, can they tell me they have a complete overview or sight of all of their business intelligence and reporting assets in the business? A single view? Nobody. Okay, well, there we go. So it's just confirmed then. So information strategy and that visibility. Now, information strategy, again, I like to keep it simple. I'm not talking about a 10, 20-week process and a 400-page document that gets handed around. I'm talking about just at a strategic level, the business and the leadership just knowing what you want to do with data. Do we know what the value of the data and do we know what the value of these assets are to us as a business? If we affect them, if we action them, what is the impact going to be? If we know that, that to me is the basis of an information strategy. It's around what we need to get to who, when, and why. So that's a very good starting point. And you'll see those go hand in hand, right? Because as I said, you need to know what you have before you can actually make that plan. Second part is around this measuring that impact and efficacy. And that's across all BI tools or your Click environment. It's what's being used, what's having the biggest impact on the business, and can we quantify it? So if you're in an existing BI environment, it's about quantifying what the value is. But again, if you have new business cases, which again I found very challenging for a lot in businesses, because you find a nice application for data, but very often it's not really unpacked and quantified. So the idea sounds great, and you end up getting it to a CAB meeting and the board, and they go, this is nice, but why? So one of the things we found that's lacking often is that value engineering concept. So what we would do is look at and help you build the business case, and not just build it. You don't build what you need to see. You build the reality of, if we go do this, can we agree that there is going to be a significant impact? Is there a revenue impact? Are we going to cut some costs? If yes, that is that go, no-go type discussion. So we want to really help and help people do that. And user adoption is also key to that, because remember, you knowing who doesn't use it or does use these tools and what the impact is key to going and being able to encourage them, to actually train them or do the data literacy type things. But I just have a belief around the data literacy things that it's not a blanket statement to me. I think there are people, I'm sure you'll agree, there are people that are inquisitive and natural kind of analysts, and there are people that just aren't interested in doing it. And you can do data literacy training till you're blue in the face. They're just not those kinds of people. So I think in the business, it's very good to understand, one, that audience, where I said it all revolves around that business user. What are they capable of doing? What do they actually need? What is their kind of interest? And then applying all of these in the right place. But again, you need to know what you have first, right? In order to do that. So we measure the efficacy. Governance is key. Development operations. And all of these are kind of alluding to the paths or the streams that we take around certain partnerships and strategic partners, because we're pulling in the best of breed and best of people in business in each of these areas to make sure we have a team of one, the standard RIC component, which is excitement and enthusiasm, and we love what we do, which I think is great, from a working point of view, to actually be enthusiastic about what we can do with all this data and stuff, but then to pull in the parts that we don't necessarily have, and South Africa doesn't have. So we've struck some very, very key partnerships that haven't existed yet before, and you're going to hear more about them as we unpack them. So that's in the development operations space, which is managing the complexity of development. That ties into the keeping the lights on, right? If you're breaking things all the time or people don't know what they're doing, it becomes more costly and it causes problems. So we want to start ticking off all of these kind of standards, DevOps, making sure that things work properly. Help with the lights on. Self-service is key in there, because you can't do self-service without a governed environment, right? So it's, again, a part of that assessment. And then last is cost management. So it's very important, and I'm not putting it last from a priority point of view, but I think that those first foundational parts are the critical path, and the end is to now see what can we do better with what we have. So, of course, there's discussions around being creative, licensing. We all know software as a service is on the rise now, consumption-based models. Those are always going to evolve. But you can only really take advantage of those when you have a good understanding of your environment and how they're going to impact your environment. So that's really that foundational part. Resourcing and maintenance. So we also have some ideas with offshoring components. I think there's an argument for it. It's been done wrong many times, but we believe there is a right way to do it. And if there's the right team working with it and it's managed properly, there are ways to be efficient around doing mundane type development and maintenance work by offshoring it as a part of our team. So there are some key strategies around there. We want to try to look how we can be efficient from a costing point of view. So that's really the kind of foundation for it. And in summary, I don't know what I've done for time. I'm kind of in that, I'm good. Yes? So from our point of view, it's kind of this flow. This is what we'd like to encourage you to discuss with us at some stage, depending on where you're on the journey. But we want to have these kinds of discussions with you. The first one is looking at that structured vision. Information strategy as a whole, understanding of where you are, measuring and looking at those foundational components, right? The visibility, how do we get visibility of what you have? How do we implement the governance and make sure that it's in the right, or you're in the right mode to take advantage of all of these new developments that are popping up all the time? And then lastly, which are kind of tied together, is as you've got that in place, to me it's a repeating cycle, right? We have an opportunity, there is an asset there we can turn into value. What's the impact? Let's measure it, let's work together to quantify it, and then you take it to the business. And I think those, what I've seen most successful in the last 10 years in BI has been exactly those projects. Yes, Yolanda? Oh, 5 minutes. I'm ahead of schedule. Who'd have thought? Well, I always time this, but I speak faster when I'm excited, so a bit ahead of schedule, which is a good thing. But yeah, so that's kind of the flow. So since I've got a couple of minutes, is there any questions, comments, anybody who wants to ask about any of these topics? Or come on, don't be shy. I know we're used to being home, but we're all together now. Any questions or comments? Any experiences you can share with anyone around strategy or information strategy that's helped? Or how you've separated departments, or any of these, do they resonate with you?
Questions around what you
Isn't that what consultants do, though? We tell you exactly what you don't know, tell you what you need to do. If you ask us how to do it, there you go. That's not the part we do. But you're right. Look, there's lots of things, and I don't want to oversimplify, and you can't oversimplify these things. But I really believe, and again, this is looking back. You know, we spent a lot of time. There's a huge amount of experience in our team, and we look back, and when these themes come up, to me, you got to start somewhere. And again, if I go back to that, taking one step back to go forward, those challenges are always going to be there. But if you can have a natural speak and a simple approach to do we have a philosophy around what we do? And that's why I'm a fan for, as I said, when it comes to information strategy, not the 400-page documents. Because again, you have someone that does something really clever, but we're all busy, and your CEO is busy, and he doesn't read them, and he doesn't know all the speak and the jargon. And I'm not a fan of IT jargon and TLAs. You know, IT loves TLAs. So it's really, to me, it's, again, the strategy, which, as I said, maybe sound underwhelming from an evolution point of view, but I think it is the right one. It's stop worrying now about trying to implement robots and bleeding edge things if you don't have the basics in place. And that's not really a new concept, I don't think, right? They're back to the basics. And it doesn't mean you can't do it. I think the exciting part of the opportunity here is that the technology can do everything. And I was actually, I think back about 2 years ago, I think it was 2.5 years ago, I was on a panel at the Africa Alliances Summit. And I had Tom Ratify from SAP and some of the top guys from Oracle. And we were all on the panel, and I got them to agree because they were pulling out their own stats, which was shocking. And they said 90% of digital transformation strategies fail. And I asked them, is it the technology? No. The tech's been there for years, right? There's so many things you can do. If I asked you now in this room, is there anything in your business that you can't address with some sort of product or company? I doubt it. You can do everything. So why do they fail? And I got them to admit exactly the same thing. It was around the core vision and the people and understanding what that purpose was of what they're doing and why. Which goes back to good old communication 101, right? So to me, you've got to start somewhere like that. And that's why I think it's a good starting point. What do you have? What do you want to do? As you said, align with those things. But it's a starting point. As I said, remember, these things evolve. But for us, I think it's a good starting point, because I think a pragmatic approach and taking a step back is probably a good time now, especially in a world now where we've just got more tools and more data and more cloud and more of these things. And it just doesn't help rolling them out if you don't actually know why you're doing it. So not to labor that point, but I think we're in that space. And I find it quite exciting, because I kind of left the analytics part into consulting probably about 2 years ago. And then some things were taking shape. But there's been a bit of a jump. And I think where we are now is there is a lot more availability of these tools. I think the skills and the tools have evolved quite a bit. So we're in a place now that you can take advantage of this. But again, as soon as I see that I've got this red light of going, we can't take another step forward now, right? If we're still dealing with, the 5 years ago, 10 years ago problem. If you ask someone, what is your self-service strategy? You get like 10 different versions. It's like we always joke, some of IT over here, if you ask someone what cloud is, you'll get 10 techies will give you 10 different descriptions. It's the same thing, but they give you their 10 versions. Yeah, so that's really it. It's just to reiterate, I've alluded to some of these principles, but what we've had to do is we've had to go and look at, who are the partners and who are the providers that we can align and pull in to make sure we deliver them. And we're going to be hearing now from Infinity, one of our key partners around, and again, a very practical and usable, extension of Click, where it fits into that real-world scenario around forecasting and planning and budgeting, something that's been lacking in a lot of places, but delivers very well. So that you'll like. And then we'll be hearing from our partners in Optics, which will tell you a great story. There are some very, very interesting people that have joined there that were actually fundamental to building Click globally. And again, this is not about Click. They'll talk about this visibility layer, which I certainly have not seen ever. So I think it's quite groundbreaking what they're doing, and it might resonate with quite a lot of you. So I'm going to hand over now to Infinity. If you want to change over, Leander. And they'll take you through that, and then Optics, and then at the end we're going to also have one of our valued customers, Alice Bester, talking about how they've applied data. Cool, thank you everyone. Don't clap. Not a lot of clap during COVID. Hey. So they can't see you, unfortunately, but you can see them. You've got a full audience of people. I've softened the crowd for you. They're ready.
Yeah. Can you hear us okay, guys? Just check, all ready to go? Yeah, all good. So, guys, hello, Cape Town. Welcome us from the UK today. I hear it's raining there. Rain? Well, we're used to that over in the UK because we get lots of it, copious amounts of it, in fact. That's quite unusual for you guys, but not unusual for us. And it's absolutely great to be back with you guys today. It's exciting to share some fabulous innovation. And you know what? Last time we came to South Africa, and we launched Infinity Flow. We chose South Africa to launch one of our new products, and that was just special for us. And hopefully it was special for you guys who was there last time. And Martin, we've got some more exciting stuff today, haven't we? Martin, you're on mute. It's exciting as a mute button.
Do you know what is the most common sentence in online communication?
CEOs, I don't know.
You're muted.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
Yeah, so we have a set of use cases that we would like to share with various industries, finance, healthcare, and retail. Some of them will be like customer videos, customer demonstrations done by customers. And some of and the retail use case, I'll just do a live demonstration and just discuss anything that's interesting for you.
So we're going to get the CEO to do a live demo. We'll make sure the mute button is definitely off, Martin. So yeah, I can't take a CEO anywhere. I don't know anyone else has this problem. You go out and you think, oh, I've got the CEO there. He's going to no. It's like Anyway, so we're going to make him sweat today. You're going to make him earn his money. So I hope you guys are with me on that. And Martin, do you want to just give a brief intro about who Infinity are? Just from where we started and where we are now.
Yes. I'll just share my screen and let's get it rolling. So can you all see the screen?
It's coming up, I think. Yeah.
It's coming up. Okay. Okay. All good?
Yeah, all good.
Perfect. So let's start. So yeah, we'll introduce Infinity Suite. Basically, Infinity Suite is what comes when you already have analytics and you already have your data in place and starting to analyze the data, and you're looking for, like, somewhere forward, like where to take it next, like what's the next step, how to evolve with your analytics in many areas. So what we're doing, we're developing a tool set of certified extensions and trusted extensions and connectors that really help you get your analytics to the next level. Something like superpowers for your data analytics, right? It's all Click native, all being natively in Click, and compatible with all the Click releases, everything, all the new coming Click, enterprise ready. So all the enterprise ready features that you expect from it, including a high degree of security and user management, everything in Click, and everything in the suite. So with me here, it's Sean Price. Sean Price is our VP of Industry Solutions. We've known each other for quite some time, couple of years, and in some moment we decided we could try and start working together and share the values, share the inspiration, and create new use cases and really take the analytics to the next level. Infinity, brief introduction before we go to the practical stuff. Yeah, Infinity has been in the market for more than or people behind Infinity for more than 10 years, being more than 10 years with Click as Click's partner. We've been working with a broad range of partners. Our focus partner and one of the best partners we have, Rick Consulting here in South Africa. So thank you very much for inviting us to this event. We're really looking forward to doing some great stuff with you guys. Yeah, and the extensions that we are developing, there is a set of extensions. We have very close relationships with Click, having Click certified stuff and technology partnership in place. So everything properly aligned and compatible with all applications that you may develop.
It's great, Martin. And thinking about innovation, we talk about this a lot, don't we? Pretty much every day, we're WhatsApping pretty much constantly, and that's absolutely live and breathe the values of pushing the boundaries, really. And we want our customers, don't we, Martin, to be on that journey with us and our partners. So it's very valuable to see how people are innovating across using our products. So absolutely vital. And Martin, in terms of that collaborative partnering with people, how valuable do you see that as a CEO?
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally critical for us, because basically that's how we develop our products. Yeah. So we're listening to the customers, we're listening to the partners. We have a certain product strategy where we'd like to take the products and really build the enhancements and improvements and take the analytics to the next level. But the guiding light, I would say, is the input from customers and partners, because this is basically giving us the feedback, like what is really needed, what is necessary, and basically you can see it here on this slide with the list of some selected references, basically from all across industries, all across the world. Positive thoughts with us bringing value.
That's great, Martin. And thinking, move on to some more vision stuff. So, again, what's really important is this: how our customers and our partners shape our vision. So, I mean, you've set out to become, the only Click native workflow and intelligence sort of opportunity. You talk about adding superpowers to your Click environment, to your ClickSense environment. And it's absolutely taking shape, because as these products are coming together, working together, we're seeing this fourth generation is where people are coming into the analytics. So third generation is all about democratizing, getting analysts out there to the front line of but actually it was missing that human element. And we find that context is through people. So I really think, what do you think, Martin? I think it's really valuable that people are able to come into our solutions and be part of the solution.
Yeah, and the idea behind it is that really to target the mission critical processes. So it's not just let's have a better data input table or let's have some better visualization or some connector or something, right? It's always let's think business, let's think where we can really add value and where you can get value from data in your processes. And where we can help you is help you act faster. And that's the whole concept of developing business applications in Qlik and taking Qlik to completely new use cases.
Way that's beyond a vital bit, isn't it? Building business applications using the products is key to this, isn't it? So yeah.
Completely new set of use cases. People really excited because they have not just the history and data, but they have also the future, the actionability on top of this. Improving of processes, right? So being able to target where the bottlenecks are, being able to look at the processes from data perspective, not just as they are defined, but really in data, what they look like. So the process intelligence.
Yeah, Martin, that's so vital. Excellent organisations, those that seek excellence and to progress towards that, really can see and understand their processes really well. And it's within our data, those processes can be quite hidden. And I think you've provided that great solution to unleash, a view across process for the masses. Not detailed process mining to the nth degree. This is about democratizing process management in a way, isn't it? Optimizing. So that's really great as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we're pushing the boundaries all the time. So that's our mantra, I would say, in the company. So we've discovered a huge area of use cases which are there and are waiting for the value that we can explore and find there. And there's a value of unstructured data. There's so much unstructured data around us, right? So we're bringing
90% is
90. Yeah, so a huge volume of unstructured data we're able to unlock and analyze and search over. From simple scenarios of searching and analyzing to really more complex scenarios of extracting the meaning, like personally identifiable information and so on.
That's great, Mark. So let's talk about the three core elements, really, of how you bring your superpowers to your Qlik environment. So do you want to talk us just through? I mean, we've got we've got flow there in the top left. We've got forms, and then we've got mole. Yeah. So do you want to talk us through just very, very quickly what you think are the key features of each one, what they do?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm more than happy to show in practice because this will be the most valuable for everyone, I hope. So yes, the product suite aiming to bring Qlik apps to life, that's how we call it. It covers the whole the process area, process intelligence, I would say, focused on workflows, hierarchies, processes, even something like a new way of data storytelling, looking at data from in context, in associations. The forms a tool set basically that can create various, I would say, scenarios around data input. It started as a write-back product, but evolved into a really, I would say, business application development tool. We have multiple scenarios where we have just rebuilt complete applications like HR management into Qlik, or project management into Qlik, or COVID triage process into Qlik. So it's very specific use cases, portfolio management. Well, we'll see it in the use cases that we'll share, right? And the mole is the unstructured data connector, which is basically extracting text content and metadata of documents that you can add, like Office documents, pictures, emails, files, whatever you add, and contains text content. It has a built-in OCR functionality, so it can really extract even from scans, and then you can search over it. You can extract the meaning of the documents.
So Martin, when you add all those together, when you think about adding documents, pictures, messaging, approval flows, use it in your Qlik native environment, visualizing your processes, searching the unstructured data. Of course, if you're loading up documents, then you want something to sort of search through them and get stuff out of that as well. So when you're adding all those things together, you can see how you can start to build business processes or business apps that workflow management, basically. So really, really powerful stuff. And I think, when we think about those solutions that you can do, it's probably worth having a look now, isn't it, about what industries we cover. And no surprise, if you think about the products we just talked about, guys, it's across all industries, really. Bringing those people and technology focus together really supports that transformation. And we absolutely love doing solutions with our customers and our partners. So, for example, we've got a customer spotlight with Waterfall Asset Management. They start the day and end the day with click and forms, powering kind of their investment decisions. So it's real-time data input and use, decision making. I think that's one of the key things. Is around entering real-time information into your click environment, and that's really, really powerful. £7 billion worth of assets they've got. That's probably slightly less than your bank balance at the moment, Martin. But really big numbers. Also, for example, in healthcare, again, we've got another customer spotlight coming in a minute, and that's really innovative use around responding to things like COVID-19, through to patient flow, through to readmissions, reviewing outpatient lists, which are growing by the minute. Again, having a technology that you can quickly adopt into your ClickSense environment, spin up processes, is just pretty game changing, really. So, should we have a little look? Maybe then, Martin.
Yeah. Which one do you want to start
I
with?
think we'll start with the healthcare one, actually, if you don't mind.
Okay.
We've got a short video for you guys now, just to hear it and see a demo from the customer, actually. We'll see if Martin's as good as the customer demoing as well. So if you do live voting about whether Martin is better demoing than the customer. I don't know. Probably not, I wouldn't have thought, but you never know.
No worries. I'll just share my screen again with the video, with the sound, and I'll start it.
Okay.
So I need to click this include the sound button.
We'll see if this works.
And see if this works. Hopefully it does.
If I were a HR manager, I just get a really simple menu in terms of UI to navigate. And should we? I think we just look at updating a case.
Okay.
So I click on this. So it brings up a ClickSense sheet with forms, objects embedded, and we do a number of things. We could search for a case if we wanted to. Here, so we have a look at cases which are already live within here. This is a demo version of the app. Or we can have a look at a case by if you know the number or the type or status or the person's name. So I think we'll just pick a case number at random, 5, and it brings it up. So we're using, so it immediately brings up the forms object. We can have a look at this. So again, not real people. So we see this is a case within our surgical division. It's a disciplinary case, quite a lot of those. It's in the status of formal investigation preparation. So I think this concept of being able to move between stages of a case is really important during an investigation. It's been classed as formal. We see who set it up, when it started, etc., what it involves, misconduct, behaviour. Patient died for this one, it's around status. We can change that, so we can rag rated if we want to as amber. It's a good functionality, isn't it? There was always the ability, the requirement to be able to attach additional information to it. So that this might be, I don't know, perhaps a report from a trade union, or perhaps might be a letter from a patient or a patient's family. In this case, it could be. So if I open up Word and just save file, save it. Desktop. Just a Word document, and then we can.
You just demonstrate how easy this is going to be, Rob. So I know we're waiting for it to happen, but actually, it's really important about how easy this is to use.
Hopefully you can see my screen. But it works. So that's really easy. And then you sort of go through. Obviously, you can capture whatever you want. You might want to put a new.
And in the background, Rob, in the background, all the information, the structures and the unstructured information, like the documents you're loading, that's stored in the well, you can do it in different ways, can't you? Infinity, so you can store it into your SQL server or XML file or click, whatever it might be. There's different ways of doing it, and that's flexible to yourself as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So yeah, we're storing these documents into a shared location that's locked down for just the HR team to be able to access, the workforce team to be able to access. So yeah, it depends where you want. There's flexibility around that.
And you can, in theory, even write back to the source systems if you have the right risk assessment, impact assessment on the source system, etc., etc. So many flexible options around how that information is recorded. But at the heart of this, you put it in, which is, hold on a minute, we're putting evidence and documents and pictures, all of these things going into Click, which is I don't think there's anything else where you can add that kind of stuff in at the moment. So really powerful, really powerful.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's good. And I think, as you said before, it's a good way of being able to handle really sensitive data as well. And I think being able to use Click's inbuilt security, so Active Directory control, to be able to really lock it down, is really important.
It stops those devilish spreadsheets causing problems. But there's so many security issues around spreadsheets still, and you've got the change logs as well on there, so you'll know who's done what and where and when. It's all contained, isn't it? I think that's really powerful to have that facility as well. What have you got there, Rob? What have you just brought up?
That was to show an example of being able to sort of search open cases and identify them. So yeah, I think it's a good example of using Click in a different way, and I guess what it lacks in its visual appeal compared to the sort of work we usually do. Flip back to the command center, which is designed to look, and to provide sort of a really simple graphical view of something that's happening. This is all about workflow and providing just an intuitive tool for people to use to do their job. So yeah, an interesting different use case.
It is good, and and then you can also, in terms of alerts or collaboration, you can actually build that into your system. So approvals, I guess. So when you think about workflows, this is the most important thing really, is about getting a smooth approval system. Outside of Click spreadsheet, you'd be emailing, you'd be sending stuff, you'd be asking. Actually, it can all be done within the environment, can't it? So you can make a very smooth process, which is saving people time and making it very transparent. Again, a lot of these things about transparency, the changelog does that for you. So again, some great advantages, isn't there, really, across the piece?
Around, I think.
Okay, guys. I think that's just a great example of how a customer has built what we call a business app to tackle a particular problem, which is around case management within their environment, within the HR department. Applicable to any industry, that I would say, just because it's in the NHS, I think you could probably pick that up as an accelerator and land that in many organisations, and a lovely design as well from a collaboration between Rob, team, and ourselves and eMark. So great stuff. Should we have a look at the finance one, Martin? Should we have a different use case?
Yes, absolutely. I'll just start it. This finance one is really interesting as well, because it's basically around workforce management and also portfolio management. So the two critical processes within the company. So let's see.
So workforce management is, simply put, is really a time allocation system for us. Just to take a step back, why do we need it is, as we're working on different deals and working on different functions within the firm, what we're trying to do is capture how much time a particular end user, think of a portfolio manager or a trader or even a middle office person in accounting, are spending their time on different things. Why do we need to do that? The primary purpose is some of these investments are a little bit more nuanced, so we need to have transparency into how we are pricing them, how much we are charging back, and things like that. But beyond that, if you think about it, it's basically transparency, being able to analyze and understand the efficiency metrics. We're spending so much on particular investments. What is our ROI on it? Is that we're spending too much time and not getting so much, or we're spending way less time and here is what it is? Can we go after investments like that? So, beyond, those are the analytics we bake in, but the primary option is being able to capture and have the transparency on there. Okay, so this is the workforce management tool that we're speaking about. Simply, we just call it time allocation internally. It's a very simplistic tool. The idea is simply capture your user input. The second demo we do has a lot of bells and whistles and very more involved and talks through some of our investment process. But this is a very generic tool that you could use it pretty much in any industry. The idea is capture user timings, right? Like capture your employees' timings as to what they're working on. So this is a landing page. We're simply providing this simplistically for them. The idea is the user goes in, logs into this. This is the screen that they see. And what we're asking is these types of functions around data management or legal or surveillance, how much time are you spending on each of those tasks? So we ask them to fill in a particular percentage of time, really, that's what it is. And once they do that, the idea is we need to allow them to see something else on top of it. So what we've done here is we need to fill out 100% of their time. And Forms allows us to have this kind of a dynamic nature. As you can see here, we're not showing anything because we're saying that you better fill out 100% of your time, otherwise I'm not. So now that I've done 50 and 50% for the month of June, and I submit my times, that's when we have some functionality here to be able to save concurrency and things like that. This is what I mean. As you can see, that 0 here became 100, so you're good. And here I'm able to display the next action that you need to take. This goes back to my thing to be able to see this live interactive nature, and your charts refreshed a little bit. Your say that 100% of my time is asset management. If you had different things, you would have like more colors in here. But being able to show that live interaction is pretty key. And then these are your deals. So I filled in some time, but of the different deals that we have, again, for privacy and security reasons, we had to obfuscate the names of our investments we're making. But you can visualize that we have many deals that we're working on, and how much time am I spending on these different things. So if I do that, 3 and maybe another 20 here. And hit submit. It'll actually tell me that my deals allocations are also 100% at that time, and simply refresh the screen. This is pretty much it. The end user fills in this time, they're done for what they need to do, and they go back. It's no longer Excel, it's emails, downloads, trying to send it back. They're done for it. But we have built some other screens. This is where the workflow angle comes in. This is where we need supervisors, senior level folks who report into. They go to a different screen. It's called the approval screen. They go in here. The idea is, are my folks filling in the right time? Do I approve or do I not? As here, we have different employees, and these are the timings. As you can see, I'm employee 65 as part of, again, our data obfuscation that we built in. I spent time on my 3 deals, and this is what it is. And do I reject or approve on them? And me as a manager here, I'm actually impersonating the manager. We built in this thing that allows us to, for testing reasons, say this is the manager that we go in. I'm impersonating the manager. I do an approval, and I can see that this particular employee has filled 100% of their time. The other employees that report onto the manager have not filled in there any time. So now you can start to build those reports, dashboards, aging, escalation, and everything of that sort, and simply being able to action those as to what it happens. So, and obviously any kinds of reports that we have, you can filter for different employees and all of that. But the idea is you can see different employees filling how much time in different kinds of things across the board for that particular manager. Those are all the reports that are changing on the fly as you submit. There's a point I was trying to make earlier. And then after this, once you've done it, it's all within the same app. You can, like, these are the different metrics and reporting that you can build off of and try to do your efficiency analysis and all of that stuff. Now that you have this information in a central place, almost real time.
So that's really great. Okay, guys. So 2 great customer use cases, real ones, show how they're adding some superpowers to their ClickSense environment. I think it's great, and they're pushing on even further now. So we can learn a lot from people like that. What we're going to do now, we're going to see how much Martin has honed his superpowers, and we're going to make our CEO sweat properly, just for you guys down in South Africa right now, whilst he's trying to find what he's demoing, and he's going to show you retail and about how our products emerge and form and join, as we were talking about in that workflow management in a retail environment. So, Martin, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you actually prepared and ready for this?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am, and happy to kick in. So, I will present a couple of use cases around retail. On the retail application. We have a demo environment where you can basically browse multiple applications. There's also this retail application. The good information or good stuff here is that you can log in to the demo environment and browse yourself as well. There are many more applications, and you can also download the application, right? So we give this here just for free to download and just use it whenever you need it, right? As an accelerator for you to use. Of course, it has infinity extensions in it, so it means like they need to be installed, but otherwise the whole script, everything is there.
Yeah.
So let's start at the first sheet, right? And what you can see here basically is the navigation flow. So many times users are in a situation that they have like, you have the tens, maybe even hundreds of various applications, various sheets in applications. And if you have a really major Qlik environment, and we already heard at the beginning, like how to set proper governance processes in more complex self-service environments. So it really is important to be able to navigate through this, right? So we don't throw just sheets and dashboards on the users, but give them a clear workflow of analytics, of thinking, how we were thinking when we were putting together the analytics, right? And that's what's shown here. So you can just come, you can see, and you can just start, click wherever you want. And when you click, it redirects you to the next screen, right? To the screen where this particular analysis is handled, right? So navigation here. What you can see here, right? So I've started with an overview, right? So this is a retail use case. We have multiple product categories here. Each of these product category has various products inside, and maybe I would like to see how these categories are performing. And you can see this. You can see these symbols here, like return, this X, COVID, some tick. So you can just see. And maybe we could start with this first one, because it's clearly visible that there is some issue with these returns, right? And it opens the hierarchy here, right? So these are the three most critical products that I would like to, that I should somehow explore deeper. And I see, yes, Ravelis, Trascor, there is, or men's underwear, Samba soccer socks. So all these products have some issue, which is marked with this cross here, right? So I select it, and here on the right-hand side, you can see the underlying data, right? So the data related to this product, so you can see what the real issue is, right? So I have navigated across the associations from like high-level view deeper into the bigger data set. And imagine you don't have 3 products, but you have hundreds or thousands of products, and as an analyst, you can just go step by step and search, but this is a tool that can show you immediately. Okay, go there and do something, right?
Martin, just on those flow boxes there, you've got your process boxes. You can attach metrics to those, can't you? Compliance metrics as well. So it's really quite diverse, isn't it? And flexible about how you can use those, isn't it? Really.
Exactly, and the good thing here is that, okay, I see the performance. We have these issues in the returns of the product, so we have kind of not a bad sales results, but we have a high percentage of returns. There is an issue, and we can browse it country by country. So where's the problem? Where the problem is, and the good thing here is that we can take action. So you see this icon, you can click this icon and enter a comment or an action, which could be like plan a campaign to sort returns, right? Because that's an issue, right? So we just click confirm the campaign. We confirm the action. You can see it is here.
Okay. Can that be emailed, Martin, to people as well? Can you automate the messaging?
And we can trigger emails from Qlik using the native native Qlik functionality, right? So that's the good thing is it's all part of the Qlik environment. So it's Qlik native. So everything that works in Qlik basically works with this tool set. So now I have just created an action, and I can clearly communicate this, that okay, there is an issue and we need to act.
Yeah.
Of course, I can always revert back to this. So when I see these comments here, and I see okay, there have been some actions defined.
Yeah.
I can just click apply selections, or anyone else, not just me, anyone I'm sharing this with, can come back and see, okay, this is something, there's something happening with it, and the action has been defined to be acted upon, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is the first use case I wanted to show. Another use case, yeah.
Yeah, just say hugely powerful how you're combining process and click integration all together and forms to interact and adjust. It's just fantastic to see that in action. What have you got here then?
Yeah, that here is a simulation scenario. You know, we all know it. We run simulations and budgeting, forecasting, and various simulations of in various use cases, right? So what we can do here is we can track if we have received the information necessary. Luckily here, you know, we have these ticks, so all information has been received. But there can be, for example, filters or certain checking procedures, I would say, in terms of data quality, if everything is correct. Yeah. And then on the right-hand side here, and here on this flow, you see the dependencies, right? So you see what has impact on the new price. Advertising costs, utilities, labor, product quantity as well, costs of goods, margins. So there is a set of factors impacting the price, right? Yeah. What I can do on here on the right hand side, I see simulations. So I've already run some simulations. So when I select a simulation, I can see the parameters basically that were calculated and their impact on the price under these circumstances, that taking into regard the details of the simulation parameters. Yeah. Huge range of use cases where you can just create scenarios and maybe get ready for some bigger meetings in terms of the storytelling, right? So you go to the board meeting and you need to be ready to present what you have analyzed in various scenarios.
And Martin, just to point out this, that quite often when centrally you'll produce a model, a financial model, for example, or what we've got there, when it lands with, further down in the operation, you find that they will say, actually, it doesn't quite work because it doesn't quite work like that way here. But what you're enabling to do is allowing people to bring context and adjust scenario modeling from their professional judgment on the field, which then can feed back up into the central model. So that's a really empowering way of getting people on board with that kind of modeling stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and it gives your calculations and basically all your data context in associations. This here, what you can see, this has been also generated from data, right? So it shows the real dependencies in the flow. That are basically in place, so there's no space for someone like making something up, right? So it either there is a dependency or there's not, right? So, and here what I want to show you as well is that I have created I'm going to create a new simulation. Of course, I can tweak and play with these parameters, and as you can see, modifying all these parameters like costs of goods sales, maybe increasing labor costs, making higher margin, lower margin. And you watch these numbers here having impact on the new price. So it means I can immediately see what the impact will be, and not only that, I can also save that as a new scenario. So I would say, for example, rig event sim, right? I can add some reason here. So for example, I have higher costs of goods, right? Just save, and when I hit save, new simulation is created and stored in my list of simulations. And I can always come back once this is like submitted and updated. I can always come back and see the parameters and see the simulation in practice.
And really, what it's doing as well, Martin, it's opening up when you're able to map your process like that and do what you're doing. Supply chains, the list goes on, doesn't it? There's so many different use cases you could apply by taking that technology, a combination of technology together. Really, it's great stuff.
Yeah, and now imagine you're going to the board meeting and you need to show the top 3 scenarios that you have prepared. So So it's really interactive. So you can just come here, you can just click through. Maybe you can, if you have some extended functionality around approvals, you can approve, disapprove, whatever you need to do with it. Or you can even calculate it in multiple currencies, right? So using the click functionality. So that's the simulation and storytelling scenario. And okay, I'll just leave this screen, and I will go to one more scenario, which is around the workflows, and that's the returns of the products here, right? So we have the workflow when a client returns a product because he or she is unhappy with the product. It goes through the claim, or the returning incident is going through multiple stages of the process, right? So you go to verifying the request, processing request, assessing the requests, refunding or denying, right? What you can do here is you see that the teams responsible for each of these stages. So if you'd like to see and discuss with these people, you see the whole workflow with the measures that you mentioned, Sean, right? So here you can see the amount of requests in which stage these requests are, right? So it means here 3 people. So and you can, it can be funny. You can have these icons, or you can make it like more boring with some text, up to you, and with some numbers. But the idea is that you can get the information here, right? So 3 people are waiting in the verify request stage. And when I click this verify request stage, it's all filtered, and I say it's these 3 people, right? These 3 people, these 3 requests, and I can go on, select the customer, and I need to do something with it, right? Because it's action required. So I need to walk through the process and update this information. So here, what you can see, even additional information, because the request date was somewhere like last year. The calculated deadline should be like 1 month, right? So we should be returning products in 1 month.
So Martin, effectively what you're doing is creating an assurance process where spot the issue, recognize it, take control, action it, do something with it, service recovery, all contained within your environment there. And you can even start to attach documents into that process as well, can't you? If you needed to add evidence through other means, photos or that kind of stuff as well, can't you? So brilliant.
It's super easy. As you can see this icon here, so you just click this icon, right? For example, you have a receipt that you'd like to upload to the application. You just click it, you click save, and the receipt is there, right? So if you just click, it's there, right? It's the document has been attached by a user to the application, and you continue with the workflow, adding, ticking, completing the stage, for example. You can set the person who has done it, so, and go click save. You go beyond, process the request. Of course, you can pick some order ID, more and more information. And this way, you just proceed across the whole workflow from stage to stage, updating and completing information.
So that flexibility and power to build your workflows is quite something. So Martin, I think we're probably a bit short on time now. Should we move a quick summary of our kind of like unique points of what this does for people, and then I think we're nearly there, aren't we? So should we move on to the back to the slides and have a quick look at those unique areas?
Yes, absolutely. So as you can see, in the meantime, as we were speaking, I just went through the whole workflow, and now I see there's no action required in the flow, and it's closed, right? Regarding this customer. So I have overview. I have the navigation. I can give section access or special access to the people working on the workflow, so that they can see only their form and their part of the workflow. It's really, really powerful how you can work with these workflows here and all this stuff. So coming back to the presentation.
You did a good demo, Martin, by the way. You didn't let us down. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
I was worried for a bit, but I thought, no, you delivered. It's great.
The people like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and so on. Each of them had a crash of the system at the presentation, right? So,
not you, not this time.
Mine is yet to come, right?
So Martin, we've got 6, and we're going to wrap this pretty quickly. But we want people to go away clearly in their mind around what we think differentiates this. So I think firstly, this is unique in the Click ecosystem, isn't it? Because it opens up so many solution opportunities to solve business problems that you might have. Okay, that might be legacy ones or new ones. Respond quickly and agile. We know in this environment we live in, business needs to respond quickly to be able to adjust to what's going on. So some fantastic opportunity there. The second point, Martin, isn't it? I think this is really one of the key ones. This is a Click native tool, and this means it fits all your security, doesn't it? It's powerful for that developer to use. It's everything is done in the environment that you've designed and bought. So I think that's absolutely fundamental, isn't it? And of course, Martin, what does that mean for scalability and performance? Because a lot of tools don't give you this. So what in terms of big numbers, big volumes?
Exactly. You can really process big volumes of data, big volumes of users. The only the limitation here is not the Infinity suite. The limitation here is basically your environment and Click environment there. So there's no special limitation influence your performance, and that's super important. It can run offline. It can run offline, and it originally starts. So it means also very much secure. Yeah. So, and also it's supported in Click SaaS, right? So it means in the Click SaaS also in a secure way you can integrate with your Click environment, also with high performance.
That's absolutely great. And we covered around that high performance, but in terms of how you operate as well, I think as a company, I think what people will get as unique, and working with our partners like Rick here today, this is about collaborating, partnering for success. So again, being at the heart of making sure that the outcomes are our focus, they're your focus, and we want to be with you on that journey. And we want customers to help shape the product, as you said at the start. So that roadmap, we want you to be part of that, because we find most innovation comes from the people that we work with. So that's another key thing, isn't it? And also certified and trusted by Click.
Click is running a certification program called TED certification, and the Forms extension, which is part of the suite, is a certified extension by Click. Infinity is a technology partner, has to comply with the requirements of Click for being a technology partner. So really being close to Click in all possible ways how we can be.
Yeah, brilliant. So folks, that's how we have brought you some superpowers to your Click sets today, hopefully. The quite unique workflow management tool, probably the only Click workflow management tool out there at the moment like this. And you can contact us at myinfinity.com. Have a look at demo.myinfinity.com. Obviously, work with our wonderful partners, Rick here today, who are fabulous. So and we sincerely thank you for your time and inviting us. We do want to come in person, so if you can sort this COVID stuff out, then we'll be there. So thanks for your time today, guys.
Cool. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Maureen. We're going to have to running a little bit over schedule, so we really appreciate your time and dialing in. We're going to have to just shut over and change to Peter McQuaid and Nick and the team at Xenoptics. So they're going to be taking over now. Leander, do you want to change it up? Thanks very much, Jens. There we go. Hey, Peter.
Well, ready to start? Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be with you. I love South Africa, except when you're breaking hearts on the rugby field. And I'm especially fond of the Cape region. And indeed, I have it on my bucket list one day to go to a cricket match at Newland. And of course, I'm also a cyclist, and I'd love to do the Cape Argus, which I never got doing either. And it looks like you found yourself a great venue. Fantastic venue. Just a shame that I am only with you virtually rather than actively. Now, as we all know, there's a lot of data around, and organisations quite right want to use that data to be impactful and relevant. However, hello, can you hear me? There was some echo. I've lost you. Hello?
Peter, I can still hear you. Leander, how are you set down there?
I don't think it's me then. If I can hear you, we're still on.
Leander, can you hear us?
There was a horrible echo down the other end.
Yeah.
If you and I are still connected, then it's not my end and it's not your end.
Yeah, and I can hear you guys as well, but I can't hear the Cape Town office.
Right. Well, it's obviously something to do with what's happening down in.
Okay. Let me check with them, and I'll see what's going on.
All right. Thank you. Right.
Continue.
Well,
Yeah, Leander, did you do that on purpose?
Yeah, I mean, you didn't like. Well, it was at the expense of the English. I would have thought you'd have. Okay, so right. So as I said, I love Cape Town, and I do want to get down there. I want to do some cycling at the Cape Island. I want to go to a cricket match in Newlands, the most beautiful ground in the world. But anyway, on to business. You're in a great venue today with you, but I'm not. But I thought to you about bad decisions. Are we getting the same problem? We got clarity, but as soon as it's definitely not, as I say, Hello? Is that better?
And we hear you, but I think it's probably good for you to put your micro in mute. Otherwise, we have the reverse of the call.
Yeah, that might be.
Yeah, and Peter still talking. Everybody hear you. Okay.
Right. Okay, that's better. Look, as we know, there's a lot of data around, and organizations that quite rightly want to use that data to make impactful and relevant decisions. However, the route from raw data through to its analysis and ultimately making decisions based upon that does present some challenges, even when you have the right data available and good analytic tools. Xenoptic's software helps you deal with this process and helps you get the best out of your BI and analytics strategy, and will help you to avoid making bad decisions and the impact from those bad decisions. Next slide, please. And making bad decisions can, surprise, surprise, be costly. There's a great Harvard Business Review article on this, focusing heavily on work done by Bain, and illustrates the impact of wrong decisions. There's a clear tie-up between profitability and shareholder value. It cites some great examples of companies who tried to reorganize in order to revive their fortunes. Didn't factor in the plain fact that in any organization, it's critical to make decisions in an effective way. Chrysler and Yahoo are just two of the examples they refer to. And of course, Chrysler's inability to organize so that they could make decisions resulted in their bankruptcy. Next slide, please. I've got the slides at this end, but I've got no slides on the screen now. So something's gone wrong there, but I'm now on to enterprise decision scenarios. We see decisions as typically divided into two groups. There's the strategic decisions, which are market driven. So typically you're looking at a whole bunch of external data as opportunities come up. There's a lot of creativity and gut feel involved in these, as well as using data. Typically, these are long-term decisions and happen at the leadership level. But operational decisions that really help you in running the business, they're tied to functional goals. They deal with internal siloed data. They're typically short-term and outcomes driven. And you need to revisit them often during the day, or perhaps even hourly. Well, operational decisions occur everywhere, right through the enterprise, from frontline workers to back office workers. They are by far the majority of decisions taken in any enterprise. And it's dealing with that and coming to grips with that, with those decisions that Xenoptics is all about. Next slide, please. So what do we see in an enterprise today? Well, there's been some studies that show that typically an enterprise will have 4 to 7 different sets of reports. They will have, that would include Excel. Excel is, of course, still a source. There'll be a whole lot of business applications as well. And one of the things that's been forgotten, I think sometimes or overlooked, is that in addition to pure play analytics tools, you've got a wealth of business applications with some reports capability. Barker reckoned that if you combine those two markets, pure play and business software with report facilities, you've got over 500 different pieces of software. So 129 in a company is not a surprising number, really. And of course, all this can be spread around different parts of the organization. So inevitably, that will mean you have many, many copies. You'll have duplicates. You'll have outdated and redundant reports. You'll have forgotten and neglected reports, reports that people really don't remember doing. And if they do remember doing them, sometimes they've just forgotten where they put them. So this has sometimes been referred to as report clutter. And it certainly can cause confusion. And it leads, what it leads to in the decision cycle is a whole bunch of questions from users that leads to uncertainty and friction. And if you look at those questions on the right-hand side, indeed, some of you might be familiar with them. I know I've recognized some of them. Where can I find their report? Can I trust that report? Often accompanied by, how comes we've got 2 reports on that set of data and the reports are different? Who owns the report? How can I share this report? What does this KPI mean? Do I have to give up my Excel? What insights are meaningful? Why are the numbers inconsistent? And that seriously threatens the sound investment that organizations have made in BI tools. Now, my colleague Nick Ayton is now going to delve into this issue a little bit more detailed from his own personal experience.
Thanks very much, Peter. Leander, if you could switch to the next slide, please. Okay, so before I actually sort of, dive into this one, as we actually sort of kicked off the presentation this afternoon, it sort of dawned on me that I'd probably been working with the RIC team and key members of the RIC team probably for about 15 years. So like Peter, certainly have a passion for South Africa, the Western Cape, and really looking forward to sort of traveling down and sort of, seeing you all in the not too distant future. My background is sort of quite varied. My background is, embedded analytics, sitting within sort of ERP applications, data visualizations, advanced analytics with self-service data prep, and also sort of artificial intelligence. Just very, very specifically back to the visual here. So this little fella here down on the left here, this used to be me as a business analyst in a previous company. And on the back of a recent company acquisition, and I had actually one of many sort of acquisitions, so I was asked to put forward a short-term plan for product distribution to revert revenue decline to stability and onwards to growth. So I was dealing with a diverse set of product lines, many different BI tools, Excel sheets, reporting capabilities embedded in different applications. The key performance indicators we agreed up front, together with the sort of status of the business and the information available to me as an analyst to embark on the assignment. Of course, all of the above sounds pretty straightforward until you start reaching out to the broader internal and external teams and going about the information assets required for the analysis leading up to decision making. So I was actually granted access to some assets, but had no clue what was actually out there and could be of value to me. Additionally, it's just assumed that that you're an expert with many different sort of BI and analytics reporting tools, not to mention the sort of, the Excels with the infamous macros and pivot tables. A pretty tall order really for any sort of, analyst to deal with. You're also collaborating with teams with different priorities, agendas, whereby I was told to sort of stand in line and would have to wait for, a series of new reports, causing unnecessary and unforeseen sort of delays in my sort of assignment. And I suppose in addition to all of the above, well, what about rogue reports? I'm sure that many of you have actually been there with rogue reports and rogue reports that actually just kick around the sort of, different parts of the organization. So I really couldn't tell which reports, which dashboarding capabilities, which applications had actually sort of been certified for my consumption. I was faced with duplication of many reports and dashboards, siloed by different teams in various parts of the company, with no clear view of what to use or what to avoid. I'll pause here and suggest that you've probably heard similar stories, and I'm sure over a few glasses of wine in about an hour or two, you can probably sort of share a few stories as well. Needless to say, I ended up spending a lot of time sifting through reports and less time focused on the task in hand. Did I complete the plan on time? Yes, I did. But it actually sort of turned into sort of, many sort of sleepless nights, staying up late, working over weekends to actually sort of, to complete the task. Having moved on from the company, this is actually sort of several months ago, did the final cut of the plan result in poor decision making? I won't draw conclusions right here and right now, but what I would actually sort of definitely suggest is that there were flaws and gaps in the analysis, and I'll actually sort of come back to my sort of experience a little bit later on in the presentation. Back to you, Peter, please.
Okay, thanks, Nick. So next slide, please. So I think we've painted the picture, the importance of decisions and some of the challenges around making good decisions. So what do we do to address this? How do we make sure that your BI investments, the excellent software BI software that you purchased from RIC, how do we make sure that that investment is optimized? Well, what we've come up with is what we call the Xenoptics Decision Confidence Platform. It's a platform which supports operational decision making and reduces friction in the decision cycle. We've given you some idea of that sort of friction. And this is very important, builds confidence that the decisions being made are the right ones based upon the right reports. So designed to support the working style of decision makers. Everything's in a very organized manner, as you will see in a moment. Next slide, please. So Xenoptics is designed to access all the silos within your enterprise. The starting point for the Xenoptics platform is a context-aware smart connectors, which bring in analytic assets into a single environment, searching them out from every nook and cranny in your organization. Reports will no longer be neglected, no longer forgotten, no longer abandoned in some obscure drive. They will all be brought in to a consolidated place. So access is one of the primary benefits of Xenoptics. you can see that we create a information catalog, and that catalog it automates the metadata to provide contextual categorization details and inherits the security and authorizations from the source systems. I think it's very important to emphasize at that point that it brings everything in from the source systems. So when you're looking at something through the Synoptics pane, a Click report, for example, you are looking at Click exactly the same as if you were looking at Click native. Nothing is changed. We're not providing another BI overlay. It is still Click. And then on top of that, we've got the assurance level, where we sort of have guardrails to help you make sure that what you're actually looking at and the decisions which you then take upon that are done in a prescribed manner. You can certify reports. So finance can sign off and say, this is the right way to look at something, let's say to do with month end, or maybe to do with month end. There's a series of reports you should look at. Finance may assemble a process, a workflow. There can be recommendations, and there's a BI glossary generated to obviously facilitate search across everything. And then in terms of getting to grips with the decision making and speeding up that process, you've got that accelerate layer. You've got ability to collaborate, because you're seeing all the different reports, you're seeing who's written them, and all the details about them. And with all that, of course, you've got communication. You can favorite, and the administrators can see usage statistics, and you can automate the workflow. So not only have you got a workflow process, you can automate it to make it very easy, going from one report to another. And all this is seen through this single pane of interaction. So to use a non-technical analogy, you could see us as a Netflix. We're not another BI tool as such, but we're a window into BI tools. So before Netflix started getting into making any films, what were they? They were a window into other people making films. So in very crude terms, you could see us as the Netflix of BI. Next slide, please. So who benefits? Well, I think we talked a little bit about business users already, and the way in which we can increase productivity and confidence in decision-making processes. So you've got a list of things there, the search for discoverability, the workflows, the categorization, the contextual categorization. We can have AI-enabled recommendations for related assets, favorites. You can subscribe to particular assets, a collaborative environment. So yes, we got an information catalog or report catalog rather at the heart of what we do, but it's the things that we do, the value add around that, which really makes what we do a little bit special. And for stewards, the people have got to look at governance and make sure that things have been done the way that it was intended. Again, the automation of workflows, report certification, the BI dictionary for metadata, the glossary, the visibility of redundant and duplicated reports as well. You know, the ability to cut those out and make sure they're not used, saving money. Virtual competency center with community engagement. All those things can be done on the back of Synoptics and the way in which you've got visibility that you just won't have with all your BI assets spread all around an enterprise. And then regarding management, we've already alluded to the fact that you can analyze usage, what is being used, what isn't, who hasn't got a license, who has got a license and doesn't need it, dashboards, users and department characteristics, impact analysis, all lots of very useful stuff to maximize your investment that you've already made in BI tools. Next slide, please. So, what are the typical use cases? There's a number, and these are some of the common ones, but they're certainly not the only ones. You've got the tool and migration consolidation, your ability to look at reports, look at them side by side, to compare them, to look at how one gets data as opposed to the other gets data, makes that whole business of migration and consolidation so much smoother. Report rationalization. You can surface the reports that aren't being used and decide, well, you know, we can can that one. It's just causing confusion. It doesn't need to be around. Process workflow. Again, we've already talked about that. That's a tremendous advantage. Having all these ad hoc reports is fine, but if you're going to actually then wrap them in a sensible business scenario, you get much better value. And then merger and acquisitions is something that where we've got quite a big story to tell. You know, you're focused on one thing, you acquire a company that's focused on another. What do you do about that? How do you bring it all together so you can first look at it and then decide how you're going to consolidate, or maybe you're not entirely going to consolidate. You're maybe going to keep with multiple tools, but at least you can get a grip on it and work out what's the next step. And then data reconciliation. As I said, with that single pane, you can look at reports side by side, which gives you a great opportunity to increase your efficiency in that area as well. Next slide, please. And you're now going to have an introduction to the platform. It's a video, and I will hand over to the folks in South Africa to run this.
Welcome to Synoptics. Our mission is to help customers maximize the value and increase the effectiveness of their existing analytic investments by aggregating all of their analytic assets into a single, collaborative, easily managed web application. The purpose? Decision-making confidence. Decision-making confidence is based on a couple of things. It's having the right report at the right time. Let's take a look at how Synoptics can support that idea and those initiatives. If I start by looking at my dashboard, the first thing that I'm going to do as an end user to validate that I've got the right reports, I've got a list of favorites at the very top of my screen. That's here every time I come in, and it's personalized for my benefit. So these are actually my favorite reports. Now, if I look at any of these reports, there's a couple of things that I should highlight for you. One is, this is a favorite report indicated by the little heart, but I also see that this is a certified report. So backing up the decision-making confidence part, this isn't just any forecast report. This one in particular has been certified for use, meaning that the underlying data has all been approved. A couple of other things to point out here would be that we have the ability in Synoptics to not only certify reports, but also to encourage collaboration via ratings and reviews. So if I click into this, I'm actually going to open up, in this case, a ClickSense report. Now, when I look at this, I'm actually opening up ClickSense. I am now in the ClickSense environment. It's worth noting here that when I log in, I'm logging in through the Synoptics interface. I don't have to separately log into Click or Tableau or SAP or anything else that I might have access to. I'm inheriting the rights and privileges that I would otherwise have had if I were logging in directly. So we're not forcing another layer of administration onto either the users or the report admins. But if I look at this, I can see again that this is a certified report. And when I go to About, I can see that I have the ability to rate the reports as well as put a review. And where this comes into play is in the example where we may have two different reports that do roughly the same thing. Perhaps one is derived from the other. You know, think of a forecast report where the original forecast is for the entire country. I, as a sales manager, might only need to see my own region, in which case I can do the filter, save it as a report, and it's still a valid report. It's based on the certified report, but I can then make it available to my team members, give it an excellent rating, and they can see that this indeed is a report that is worth working with. Now, in addition to this, when we look at the details, we're going to see the information that actually is being brought into Xenoptics. We're bringing in metadata. We're not actually bringing in all of the data for all of the reports. This is an important feature that we'll come back to in a little bit. So across my dashboard, you can see that I've got a report here that's ClickSense, MicroStrategy, Cognos, Tableau, multiple platforms that I can use interchangeably. Again, you know, getting back to the idea of getting to the right report, the right data as I need it. Something else that reinforces the idea is going to be the concept of being able to categorize our reports. So rather than me picking and choosing the reports that I need, I can also have for my users the idea of the category. Now, the way we define the category is it's a folder structure that supports report distribution in a curated and organized manner. What I mean by that is, you know, it works best by thinking of an example. And I think everybody knows Stark Industries and Tony Stark, Iron Man. So if I use that as an example, we can look at Stark Industries as a global organization. And when I click in, we can see that it's now breaking it out and grouping reports based on a line of business. So I can see Africa or the Americas or Asia. And as I continue to click into this folder structure, I'm now getting into the role. So for example, corporate finance or HR or supply chain. So we're taking what might be tens or hundreds of thousands of reports and organizing them by potentially geography, line of business, and business role. Again, making it very easy for me to get to the reports that I need in order to do my job. The next thing we want to look at is going to be the idea of a workflow. So if we think of categories as a folder structure, think of workflows as a guided path. It's going to be similar in that it will present to me, the user, a fixed number of reports, but these reports are going to be special in that they walk through a specific set of steps to satisfy a business objective. So in this case, it's the workflow to handle a purchase order and walking through each of the reports that would be required to manage that process. If I go back, I can see that there are other workflows that help highlight that example. So a material return analysis, that's a multi-step process, could require multiple reports. And for the benefit of continuity, accuracy, onboarding ease, we have the capability to build all of these series of reports into easy workflows. Now, there's a couple of other features that we should mention as well. And these are actually very large, though they're not very large on this screen. So the capability around search. If you need access to a piece of information, it's not immediately at your fingertips. You don't know where to go to get it. You can simply search on a term. And if I use the term forecast, this is going to show me the different areas where forecast exists. And I can see reports that I might not even have access to. And in that case, I would simply request access. Along with the search, remember I used the search term, we also have a BI glossary. So the terms are all defined and available within the glossary. And one of the neat things here is that the glossary is going to be a running list of all of the terms across all of the reports from all of the platforms. So it's a complete aggregate of all of these terms. Now, lastly, when we think about report accuracy, the ability for me to see what's really going on with each of my platforms, we go to our report statistics. What I'm looking at here would be the number of reports per platform, the usage of those reports. So how efficient is my organization at utilizing my investment in my reporting platforms? How many reports per platform? And in that, interesting stats like how many reports aren't being used? How many haven't been used in a year or 6 months? This can be particularly telling for an organization that is managing its license counts or is looking to answer the question, am I using the right platform or should I be moving on to another platform? In that case, we also bring in our TCO dashboard, and I just clicked between the toggle here, where I can see my current license usage in terms of how many of my licenses have been allocated to users against the total number that I own, as well as usage trends of my reports, potential savings opportunities if there is a massive delta between my actual usage against my licenses. Now, we like to think at Xenoptics about decision confidence really being 3 principles: access, assure, and accelerate. So when we think about the concept of access, you think of that as frictionless access to cross-platform information assets. How do we do that? Well, we're doing that from our dashboard. We're doing it from the favorites, and we're utilizing search to, as well as categories and workflows. There are a number of different places where access comes into play and where features within Xenoptics address that. The next one was assure. We define that as being the ability to organize and govern assets, or the asset flow through prescribed paths for maximum usability. And again, that's going to be via workflows, certifications for governance, categorization for governance. And then lastly, the accelerate. Now that's enable consistent, efficient decision-making processes, monitoring and measuring.
Leander, if you could just actually flip to the next slide. Lovely, thanks very much.
Take it away, Nick.
Thank you, Peter. Unfortunately, we couldn't hear the video, so I hope you enjoyed all of that. And I've got a slight technicality. I'm going to leave my camera off because it's triggering the fan, which actually is going to make a lot of noise. So I'll just leave the camera off, just actually while I step through what is just one single use case, customer case. And I promise that it's just one. We're not going to do multiple here. So in this particular sort of case study, this is where Zenoptics helped a global fast-moving consumer goods brand. This is really sort of before adopting Zenoptics, and the brand had a sort of chaotic, fragmented reporting environment because information was spread across the company in many different applications, Google Sheets, home-built portals, web pages with links to external sources, resulting in complexities and really no ability for users to, as Peter alluded to there earlier, to search across information assets in many different systems. The brand managed to maintain their home-built resources manually and never really managed to satisfy the different user communities, and that really prompted them to conduct a survey amongst their employees to gauge their experience and satisfaction levels. And the first question that they asked was, how would you rate your experience of accessing information assets? Almost 40% of the respondents said, well, somewhat dissatisfied, with another 40% stating somewhat satisfied. The next question was, how confident are you? Sorry, I'll reiterate that. How confident are you that you are aware of currently available reports and how to access them? Similar responses to the previous question, whereby 45% little to no confidence, and another 35% stated average confidence. So that's really sort of setting the scene of the sort of experience by different users prior to Zenoptics. If we could just then sort of move to the next slide, please. So this is now having adopted Zenoptics. Zenoptics provides them with a single platform for all the brands reports, regardless of siloed internal systems and external information sources for all users, and all new users are actually now connected to Zenoptics. Company employees access all their reports through this single, as they refer to it, analytics hub. Employees are able to connect simple searches across the entire BI ecosystem, regardless of the report type. The company has streamlined the reporting environment and reduced the number of reports to only the essential trusted ones. And in addition, they've deployed workflows to launch a series of reports with one click to optimize and accelerate business processes. In closing, they've also benefited from some substantial cost savings achieved through the decommissioning of one of their legacy BI tools. If I flip back to my own experience and that sad-looking fellow, the analyst, and had I been able to access the Zenoptics capabilities at the time, I would have had a global view of all information assets, not only the ones I'd been granted access to, but those I could see were available and could have requested access to. This would have helped to bridge those analytics gaps and rectify those flaws I referred to earlier. And it was really of equal importance, viewing reports tagged as certified, it would have fundamentally augmented the team's confidence in drawing the right conclusions and making the right decisions. Back over to you, Peter.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So, thanks, Nick, and thank you to RIC for giving Nick and I the opportunity to present the Zenoptics solution. To recap, Zenoptics is designed to support business decision-making and maximize the impact of your BI and analytics strategy. So we got this single point of access to all information assets without, as I said, changing the actual assets that you've got. Synoptics provides the visibility and assurance of a governed environment for appropriate use. Now, we've got a strong leadership and advisory team, and they're focused very much on the future, a future where we see a lot more need for this sort of solution as the amount of data and the amount of analytics grows, and obviously decisions made as a result of those things. So if I look at the board of our company, which is Californian-based, well, many of you will be familiar with the name of Lars Bjork, former CEO of Click. He clearly sees the value in Xenoptics because he's joined our board. And we also have the well-known BI guru, Donald Farmer, again, a name that will be familiar to a number of you. He's a close advisor. So if you want to learn more about Xenoptics and RIC Consulting, and I hope you do, and if you want to learn about how we can advance your analytics strategy, please watch out for our upcoming webinar. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. I think you're going to be having a more informal session later on with an opportunity to drink some great cake wine. Obviously, given what I said earlier on, I wish I was with you. And I certainly look forward to the time when I can return to your great country and indeed sample some of your local grapes. And who knows, one day I might finally sit in the sun at Newlands or be cycling off down to the Cape Peninsula. Next slide, please. I think there's another slide anyway.
There is. Yep, there you go.
Thank you. If we have time for answer any questions, but if we have, we're more than willing to give it a go.
Okay, Peter, let me take a look quickly. Do you want to mute? Just if there are any. So are there any questions anybody has that they'd like to fire specifically at Peter or Nick?
Yep.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Well, I got one more question than you. So look, I think in reality, like most of these things, there's quite a lot of information to absorb. But it was very, very good presentation. We really appreciate it. I think it's an exciting addition, as you saw earlier, to this concept of visibility and actually understanding what you have. But I think like most things will go away. Everybody will be absorbing this information and hopefully engaging. And if there's any questions, as you said, we'll deal with the webinar. We'll start picking them up, independently with the guys. So I'm sure there will be. But I think now everybody's looking at the time from a wine point of view. So we're gonna have one more presentation, and then we'll stick to the wine, and then maybe some more questions will pop up.
I fully understand that, and I'm more than happy to deal with any questions that come through afterwards. So as I said, just enjoy the rest of.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time, team. We're going to hand over now. Thanks, gents. We'll speak to you soon. So we're going to hand over now to our customer, Alice Bester. No pressure, but the only thing standing between everyone and wine. But I think we're doing really, really great for time. So can we get the Alice Bester team up here? Here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. As the introduction was that I'm from Alice Bester. And yeah, I'll attempt to not take up too much of your wine time. It's my wine time also, so I'll try to be quick. So basically, we at Alice Bester, Zander and I, my brother, is here to present basically a case study. We're primarily avocado farmers, so we'll be presenting a case study of basically why we use Click and how we use Click. Basically what I'll be doing is just providing a quick introduction. Zander will then be presenting the details and the practical aspects. As I said, I'll try to be quick. Not to take up too much of Zander's time. So we're a fourth generation family farm. Zander and I, we're the fourth generation. My dad, we're privileged to still have him active in the business as well. So yeah, it's quite a nice family setup we've got going. Like I said, we primarily produce avocado. We also do a bit of banana, lychee. We've recently started on a coffee venture. And we also had some timber. We don't have any timber anymore. We basically reducing the timber to make space for more avocado. Then we're very export driven. So we try to export at least about 60 to 70% of our avocado crop. And then we located almost right in the northern part of the country, a town called Zanin in Limpopo. That's basically the picture is how it looks there. So I don't know, you know, you've got a beautiful place going here. If you've never been up there, come visit. It's quite beautiful there as well. We also have a world-renowned clonal avocado nursery, which my dad started in 1980. We try to produce around 200 to 300,000 avocado trees a year. But, you know, it's a complex process and very, very management intensive. We're also quite vertically integrated. Like I said, with the nursery, we're involved in the propagation process of avocados as well. Where primarily, you know, our core business is the production side, you know, producing the fruit. And we're also involved in packing and marketing and exporting. We're also the owner of the very first South African avocado variety, which was discovered here in South Africa. Okay, so, you know, some of you might wonder, what exactly is it that us farmers do? Those of you not familiar with, you know, farmers, what do we do with our time? So basically, you know, what my friends tend to think I do is braai all the time. My mum thinks I'm still playing with tractors. I think most of society thinks I'm sitting on the stoop looking at the plants growing. And the bank basically thinks all the money it lends to me, I'm burning it. I tend to think that I'm producing the best fruit and I'm very proud of it. And the nice big avocados, that's a mango. And what I actually do is fix tractors all day, broken equipment and all that. So that's just the background. So, you know, the challenges that we have with data in agriculture is basically that, you know, we lack, like I said, there's high fidelity data. We lack data that we have trust in. Good quality data, especially in electronic format. We tend to be an industry coming from, you know, having your figures on the back of a cigarette box and a lot of papers thrown into the back of the bakkie, which hopefully at some stage makes it to the office. And if you're lucky, your wife is involved and she takes those papers and does something useful with it. Usually that results in an argument, but so, you know, you try to not give her that. So it's generally very fragmented. So we tend to have, you know, you have the information that's captured on a piece of paper. You have some information in an Excel file somewhere. If you're fancy, you have some information in databases, and, you know, all these products that's available to farmers nowadays on the technology front. You have your, you know, different management systems, irrigation management systems, all those types of things, which also have their data. So it's quite fragmented. There's another, you know, principle in farming. You know, in Afrikaans we say, jy moet meet om te weet. You have to measure to know. So, you know, that's half of the story. Just measuring is not enough to know. I think as most of you would realize. It's just the first step in knowing. Then you have to do something with that data. You have to interpret that data, and that's a real challenge. There's also the precision farming myth. You know, there's a myth going around that if you install a fancy or, you know, purchase a fancy John Deere tractor with GPS and self-driving ability, then you're doing precision farming. But unfortunately, that's not the case. That's just one piece of the puzzle. But us farmers tend to, work on those types of things that, you can buy precision farming off the shelf. Then we're a modern industry without modern systems. So basically, in terms of our practices, we've modernized together with all other industries, industries like manufacturing and mining and all those industries. But we haven't kept pace with our systems. And that's a big lacking part of the modernizing of our industry. So that's just the challenges we face. So in terms of our path and background to that, we were introduced to Click in 2016. At that stage, we sort of heard about Click View. And when we started engaging the partner which we had at that time, we were informed that there's this new thing called Click Sense that's just sort of came out, but it's not that mature yet. But they told us no, they'd recommend that we start with that instead of Click View. Looking back at that, I'm very glad we did that we started out with Click Sense. The nice thing for us was that you automatically had a system that's nicely available to anyone. It's not running on one single computer somewhere. At the moment, we're running ClickSense on an on-premise server. We've been doing that since the start, and it's worked well for us. We have a nice small IT team, as part of our team, full-time. So it's quite easy for us to do that, and it makes sense for us to do that. Our data sources are basically, almost everything. We have relational databases, lots of Excel documents, which are quite strangely formatted sometimes and, riddled with errors and problems, like any good Excel document. And we also have an ERP system and, a couple of cloud service APIs where we can get data from. We have about 35 Click apps running, more or less, depends on when you ask, and about 8 users using the system. So since 2019, we've switched partners to RIC, and we sort of had the problem. Initially we thought we could do the development ourselves. We have our little IT development team, and we thought, well, this is pretty simple and straightforward. We'll do the development ourselves. And we quickly realized that it's sometimes quite a full-time job, especially if you're coming from nothing and difficult systems and all those things. So we never really made full utilization of the Click Sense that we had. And since we partnered with RIC, we've engaged them to sort of outsource that development, and it's been working really well for us. It's speeded up the process drastically. So they're doing the maintenance and support for us and the app development, as I've said. Okay, so, why Click? So for us, with our development team that we had, we've been doing development since 2008. We started on a drive where we decided, well, we don't have the data. There's a lot of things we don't have data on. So we need to first go on a drive to gather the data and to gather data that we can have trust in. So that became our primary goal. And, reporting sort of lagged behind that. And it was a problem until, our paths crossed with Click, because that just made it a lot more easier for us to focus on what we wanted to do, and that is to gather good data. The reporting can then be taken care of easily, and we didn't have to focus on that, on developing, static reports for everyone, depending on what they wanted. So what it provides is, ease of use for us. So, for a user to to teach him to use a click report or a click visualization is quite easy. You don't really have to teach him anything. You just tell him, okay, here's how you get to it. That's about the most difficult part. And then just start playing with it. You can't break anything. And that's what makes it so nice. So you don't have to go through training to train someone how to use a visualization. It's highly customizable, specifically, per user. So if a specific user or person somewhere along the line wants to see something in a certain way, it's easy for him to customize the visualization to do that. So yeah, delegated reporting, so that just basically adds on to that. It's this whole self-service part of the thing. If the data layer is structured properly and all the variables are nicely available and nicely named, then it doesn't take too much for anyone to go and create his own visualizations as he'd like to see it. Improved visualization, we're coming from an Excel background mostly in terms of reporting anything. So we're used to line graphs and if you use the pie chart, then people would applaud you basically. So that's what we're used to. And so when we started with Click developing the apps ourselves and the visualizations ourselves, that's what we tended to stick with. So we just created line graphs and pie charts. So and what's nice if you start using the full power of the thing is that you start working with visualizations that you didn't know existed, and that tells you stories that it gives you answers that you didn't know you had, to questions you didn't know you had. So that's what's great to us is that improved visualization from where we came from. It's always available, with the Excel files and those reports, or any other reports, PDF reports or whatever. It used to be that at most you had a shared drive somewhere on the network, but you had to be at the office to look at it, or and the network had to work in terms of the shared drive and all those things. So it was quite difficult sometimes to have it available for someone to view, especially if he's away from the office. That's the nice thing now is that it's always available. You just log on to the site and you have your visualizations. Provides us with powerful insights. Like I said, it's not only having a graph, it's actually having insight into what's happening. Consolidation of the data sources. Obviously, you could only visualize a graph in Excel if you had the data in Excel. And maybe you could use an Excel, as a basis to extract data from your relational database. But that required someone quite technical to do that. And it was a real problem because we had such fragmented data to build reports of all the data. So that's what's nice for us with Click as well, is that it's really not hard to pull the data from different sources and have this single data lake type scenario. Then it frees your hands to do other things. So like I said at the point there above, is we'd rather focus on some other things. We'd rather focus on bringing in good quality data, gathering the data, building systems to gather the data with as little human involvement as possible. And, on farming in general. That's what we like to focus on. We're farmers. So that's where it helps us, is it frees our hands as well. So in terms of the future, where we're going, at the moment, we basically see it as a two-step process. So at the moment, we're at step one, and that's just to analyze and report on what we have. And as we gather new parameters in and generate new metrics, then we analyze and report on that. So that's basically where we are now. Where we'd like to go after that is we'd like to start, doing predictions and forecasting. For us, that's extremely important. If we can create nice forecasting tools, for a farming enterprise, especially, with us with fruit farming, you have to look 5, 10, 20 years in advance to try and base your decisions on whatever outlook you have over that term. So we'd like to leverage our data to do that for us as well. Advanced anomaly detection, detecting when things aren't going as planned. Sometimes you realize it too late, weeks after the fact or months after the fact, you only realize something went wrong. So if we can have near real-time or real-time anomaly detection, that would make a huge difference. What if scenarios? Farming is because it's a very biological process. It's very difficult to know how different parameters influence the output. So, it's not like a manufacturing industry or something where you can nicely pinpoint certain things. If you were to model the production process, the error parameter would be huge. There's just a lot that we still don't know in terms of the technicality. So if we can run some what-if scenarios where you play with the parameters that you do know about, and it spits out an output value for you according to a model, that would be very valuable. So, and also, like I said, to try and understand and the complex relationships from a statistical standpoint. There's a lot that can be done with machine learning or just straightforward statistical methods to try and just get a better understanding of what influences our output and to use our own data for that, and also to point us into the correct direction of what piece of data and what parameter is the next one that we should go after that we don't have yet. So, I'm going to hand over to Zander, and he's going to take you through the more practical aspects and the day-to-day visualizations that he's built up and is using in his management of the production. Thank you.
Dankie, iedereen. Ja, okay. I'm going to try and make up some time. They asked me to do it in 2 minutes, but it's really going to be impossible. So I'm going to go for 10 and try and finish up. This chart is just a management chart that we use now. This is cultivar specific. I know you can't see anything on it, but that's the only way I can fit it into one screen. So in my office, I have a big chart like this for all the different cultivars. Now, we farm about 8 or 9 different cultivars, where I know with a lot of other crops it's still very little. But in terms of what we do, it's quite complicated. So what it boils down to is different months, and that each row is basically an activity that needs to take place. The problem with this is it's very subjectively based. So we have to just guess when should what happen. We look at, well, okay, the tree looks like this. It's at that point of its phenological cycle. Let's go. We need to prune. Half the time you're so far behind on the schedule that you have to play catch up anyway. So we've started moving towards more dedication on this, but again, trying to move away from subjective analysis. Everyone's mentioned a lot of this, so I'm not going to repeat everything. I think in essence, what we sit with is a very unique scenario. Our previous marketing company manager or CEO referred to it, or used to call the guys overseas taking our fruit and telling them, we don't bottle Coke. We can't tell you what's going to come out. We work with theoretically 200 different factories or production units. And a lot of that's based on variables that we can't manage. We can't manage the weather. If it rains tomorrow, I can't harvest. It's things like that. So a lot of it's stupid. Some tasks you just can't do, and it needs to follow specifically on another task. So it is a complex process. Like Edran said, a lot of it used to be paper-based or Excel-based, which makes it very complicated. And yeah, I think as farmers, we actually have to play a lot of different roles. Where in the world did we think 10, 20 years ago we'd be standing in a data analytics, shoe and try and do that as well? that while farming, trying to be engineer, trying to fix all sorts of things. So it's an interesting environment that we find ourselves in. Then, yeah, I think the most important for us is we've had really, really good experience with Click, like Adrian mentioned, especially with since we've joined RIC. I think the major thing for us was collaborating, and you know, we as farmers tend to focus on specific measurements or benchmarking. But this, you know, is very hardly based on, or very rarely based on scientific research. A lot of it, although the scientific research is there, it's still very gut-based. So we want to try and look at what are the true measurements that we need to act upon, instead of just, you know, working on the old things that used to be there. So is there anything new? And I think that's what we discovered since using Click is, you know, there's new and more, you know, things to benchmark on. So we've learned a lot through that. I think what's crucial for us, like Adrian said, is anomaly reporting. Yeah, you can imagine with the amount of data points that we have and the amount of opportunities there are that people can make errors, but also managing that amount of sites, theft, all of those types of things starts playing in as well. So we really need to keep our hands on everything. So the easiest way to start is basically from an anomaly reporting point of view. We followed a shotgun approach almost in setting everything up. So a lot of it is based on, well, let's do this, let's see what the data shows us, and then, you know, start seeing, okay, this is what we actually want to monitor and manage, and then focus more on those dashboards. Yeah, then, you know, definitely reporting accuracy is crucial. We've worked a lot on that, improved on it a bit. We've saved a lot in terms of time of compiling reports. Adrian and his IT team had to do that in the past. Now they can actually spend more time on putting programs and systems together, and we can focus ourselves on actually compiling dashboards. I think a crucial point in farming is the resource planning end of it. I will show you a few slides on that. And then as a business, you know, employee management is crucial. And on our farm, we sit with roughly 300 employees. And how do we manage them going forward and getting the best results from them? So everyone wants to save costs. I remember the previous time we presented this, the biggest question was, yeah, show everyone what cost do you save? And I think that's not the be-all and end-all. For us, it's a lot about efficiency. We want to improve on the amount of product we can produce on a production unit. In other terms, you know, vertical integration. And the best way to get through to that is by achieving critical mass on each point and moving beyond that into economies of scale, but not economies of scale in the sense of just planting more and more hectares. That becomes more complicated again. So the easiest way is actually to ramp up efficiency. So yeah, I'm not going to go into the anomaly reporting again. I'm just going to start with a case study. So this is a cultivar that Adrian spoke of. So we have a consumer brand that we've put on it, and we sell it through Woolworths. So last year we started with this, and the year before we ran this on a WhatsApp group, so they would just send us photos and just a rating of what the store's quality looks like and whatever. And last year I just had the brainwave to just put it on a little Fulcrum app that I designed, and you know, whoever walks into the store needs to take a photo of the shelf, the fruit, a few punnets, rate them and say, okay, the store rates, you know, quality based on this, you know, appearance and things like that. Just do normal 5-point ratings. And the data we got from it was amazing. So, you know, things like this on the left-hand side, that's basically the quality measurements, the different scales that we've tested. This is the average quality through the season, and this basically gives us a market share calculation. So a very easy dashboard that very quickly shows us what our product's doing in Woolworths. This, you know, gives us an opportunity also to feed data back to Woolworths. My English is even getting worse. So yeah, obviously For us, that's a key differentiator as well as a supplier in Woolworths to actually get a better foothold. So you can see that store, for example, the quality rating over the season was 20%. So it's way below par, and it gives us an opportunity to say to Woolworths, well, we're happy with these stores, but those stores aren't that great. You know, whether they will change something, but I mean, most of the times they will follow up on it. Also, as an unexpected benefit, we started managing the runners that did the quality surveys. Suddenly, we could see where they got overcritical. You know, you would see someone dropping off the scale and saying, you know, maybe just ease up a bit. You know, you might be a little bit too strict. You can't really see it, but there's links down here. So on our bulk data, basically in Click, you know, Yandre built us links that if we click on them, you actually get the specific photos of that rating. So a lot of times, if you're not sure whether that customer actually rated properly, you can go into the file and see whether he did a good job or not, and whether he's being overcritical or not. This is quite interesting from a market trend analysis. So this was last season. And you'll see how high the sales was initially, and there's a drop off to where it stabilized for a few weeks on this level, and then dropped off again and carried on. Now, the interesting fact in this is that's level 5 of COVID, that's level 4 of COVID, and that's level 3. Now, the interesting thing is, I don't know how many of you picked it up, but in the first few months of COVID, who did the shopping? Most of it was the men. The women stayed at home, men went shopping, and where did they go? Woolworths. They're not price sensitive. So the other thing is they don't really compare. People started treating themselves at home. They didn't eat at restaurants anymore. So a few things showed up, and it's something to learn from for the future. So interesting facts, again, something that we can feed back into the system. And then again, after level 4, more and more people were happy going back to their spas, their pick and pays, their food lovers. I think also people trusted quality from Woolworths a lot more. So, you know, they didn't want to go to the shops every day after work. They were going once or twice a week. So I trusted everything to at least keep that long. So just by chance, things that we started picking up from a simple, you know, survey that we've put out. Wow, my 10 minutes already done. Okay. This basically is just a summary of shelf life. So, I mean, a lot of you buy avocados, and by the time you cut them, they're rotten. That's the most experience that people have. So what we do here is that's basically a chart showing how good our quality is and how many days after sell-by date are we rating the quality. That's basically quality defects that we see after it, and about 42% of the fruit in this section is still great quality. So that gives us a lot of confidence moving forward, and we can also see how we can tweak this over the season, getting better quality to the consumer. So Edran spoke about farmers burning money. Now this is where we burn money. That machine runs about 300 liters of diesel a day. So a little mishap here or there, a little, you know, reverse job that we need to do costs a lot of money. So we want to manage that. We also want to keep track of the hours, efficient hours that they use. So you can see when we started the app, how poorly we were capturing data, you know, 2 days passing, and then they capture the data, and it gives you very, you know, that garbage in, garbage out thing. And then here you can see where, you know, it stabilizes. We have 9-hour work days, so the 13 is where the guy decided to do overtime. You can check it, you can control it, and match it up. This also gives us accurate invoices, so at the end of the day, we can track whether that's physically what the guys are billing us and whether we're paying them the right money. This is just a little chart of orchard practices and what it costs us and which activities costs us the most. And again, you know, as farmers, we tend to work on gut. We have a belief of what costs us the most. You know, a lot of farmers, if you ask them, they're going to say chemicals or fertilizer. But a lot of it is actually man hours in the orchard. So you want to track that, but you also want to pin it to a specific activity so you can start bringing it down and even it out a bit. This is just a way to motivate labor. So this is for a specific tasks. So on that task, basically that would be the average hours that we would like to aim for and the blocks that went over it. So theoretically then we would incentivize the team leader for actually achieving those goals. So again, a way of empowering employees to actually push themselves instead of you pushing it from the top. Just a simple chart, again, just a little improvement on a normal Excel, but this is in the bulk data that runs behind the dashboards. And, just a little face to show how many employees do we use, just gives you a little quick indication of which tasks used less. And this is one activity, so which orchards were actually more efficient. So again, going into those orchards and looking at why are they more efficient than other orchards. So try and remodel that on your other orchards. This basically mechanization, it's two different pieces of equipment that does the same job. The one uses an average of 2.25 man hours per hectare. The other machine runs at 0.83 man hours per hectare. So it's more than a double improvement in speed, but it's both mechanization. So again, looking at what equipment am I using and how does it improve my efficiency. This is a scatter of blocks and their costs and the amount of labor they use, and you can see the outlier. So something's going wrong there. So let's look into that. And again, the ability to click on that block and jump to other dashboards again and look at what the specific costs are. Imagine going back to that little Meco chart of the different activities per block. So it's easy to track costs. Cut through the BS. So those of you that don't know what BS stands for. But anyway, so it just shows where activities are beyond the amount of hours that they should have logged, or diesel usage or whatever, to track costs. Yeah, I'm really trying to pace through it. Diesel usage per day. So again, you have the ability to look at different farms. Where are we using the most diesel? The top line there is 10,000 liters a month that we're using on one farm, and we were carting that diesel in every day instead of just putting down a proper tank there and just keeping the diesel there. So again, the added diesel of driving it through. So picking up on efficiencies, machines, are there hours correlating with the amount of diesel that they're using? So yes, the excavator is working a lot of hours, so there's a reason why it's using the most diesel as well. Between similar machines, and it's also possible to give one supplier feedback and say to the contractor, listen, this machine's using a bit more diesel for the amount of hours that it's working. It's not in relation to the rest. Maybe we should check that. And when you look at the outlier again, it's that same machine. So theoretically, I can say to the contractor, I don't want this machine, it's outdated, it's using more diesel than the other machines. So again, gives us the ability. Adrian and I have definite two different brains. So Adrian prefers this view when we look at irrigation. I prefer this sort of view, and that again, a benefit of Click, where we can build different dashboards on the same data for different end users. We have to manage alternate bearing in avocado, so we'd have an on crop one year and an ultimate down crop the next year, and you can see it in the first few years there. And through pruning, how we've changed it over time. And, are we efficient with what we're doing? Are we spending time on the right things? So, again, showing us good data. Instead of looking at average production per hectare, we were looking at what the median is. So, obviously, everything below the middle point of production is costing the farm money. So, you can look at the amount of production units that were underperforming. So if we can just get all of that to around the 3,500 cartons per hectare, the whole business would look completely different. Harvest timing, we have a thing in farming saying that the later you harvest, the more you decrease next year's crop, the more you have an effect on next year's crop. So this chart we actually set up just recently in terms of what time was it harvested last year and what crop is it giving me this year. So to build a correlation there. Again, looking at new ways of measuring what we're doing on the farm instead of just production per hectare. And at the moment, yes, there's more dots there, but the late blocks are still producing quite well. The only reason there's more dots there is we tend to harvest a lot earlier. So it will be interesting to keep track of this over years, but at the moment it doesn't look like it has a major effect. Just from an exporting point of view, I'll go through this real quick. All my customers overseas, the cultivar spread, the farmers that supply into those customers, what percentages they are. So nice interactivity again. I can look at one customer and say, okay, well, who supplied the most fruit into that customer? What was the cultivar spread just to that specific customer? And again, if I just want to look at one cultivar and to which customers it went, again, very easy to click through these things and get quick results. Are we comparing apples with apples, avocados with avocados? I can't say the two customers there. I selected two customers and their price, the one's prices were much higher than the other. But if you look at this graph and that one, we didn't supply them evenly. This guy got fruit for 3 weeks where the other one got fruit for 24 weeks. So, play fair with your customers. In terms of exporting, each of these is a shipment, so fruit on a ship going out, and the cost per shipment. So for each container on each ship, I can track the costs and say, is it in relation? Now, that was quite cheap, but these ones were quite expensive. Now, last year with COVID, that was quite important. We had a lot of containers sitting in the harbor that couldn't go out when the harbor was delayed, things like that. So also a crucial management point. So again, when we look at this, we started setting up a little graph like that, showing us which activities are happening from start date to end date in which blocks. And yeah, so what are we looking at in the future? Adrian's mentioned a few of these, but I think the most important thing for us now is to start, we've used the shotgun approach, we're still using it a bit, but now starting to narrow down on the correlations and see where can we go. But I think the ultimate benefit that we're seeing is feeding all of this back into our research and development approach. Avocados is still on a discovery of where we can go. I think farming as a whole, there's a lot that can be improved, and I think this allows us to actually feed back into the system and actively learn on what we're doing. Thank you very much.
Cool, thanks so much for that. So that was a great story. I know it's not necessarily always applicable in your environment, but I think it does show you again that their staged approach or their step-by-step approach and having that plan, I think it's a good example of a information strategy, right? They know what they want to achieve and by when. So that's pretty much that. I think I just want to wrap up by going over kind of from our side, what the intention was today was, and what we would be happy if we achieved was, one, I suppose, to show you that as a team, there's quite a lot of enthusiasm, but there's a lot of experience in our team, and we like to think that we're taking an approach that's slightly out of the box, looking at our history and experiences to see, can we apply those to solve real problems. So that was that kind of first part. I think that the team from Infinity showed, again, a practical example of what kinds of components we could bring to really add significant value to your current environments. Are we thinking about how this gets applied, as we said, to business users? You heard me say it a couple of times around being obsessed with those users and how they get value. And I think that's an example of where they're solving a problem that's a reality. The Xenoptics team showing you that single pane of glass, which I think is very exciting, tying into what I said earlier around visibility. And then, a beautiful case study. So for me, I think, thank you. I want to say a big thank you to all of you for one, venturing out of homes or offices with the rain, which is quite impressive. So a rainy day in Cape Town, and you came all the way here. We really want to thank you for that effort. We really appreciate it. We hope it was valuable to you. We hope you got a picture and maybe a little bit of the personality of RIC, and that we're here and that we can potentially add value to the business. So if you got that, we're kind of happy. And I just want to end off finally just by thanking the team. So first of all, the Click, all our partners in Optics, our leadership team, Marco, Dawn, Yolanda, all of you for having the vision. I think it was quite bold, because when we got to planning the event, there was, of course, that very key question about, will we be able to have it? And should we go virtual? And I think it was the right choice. I think it gave us all a reason to get out in person again. So we really appreciate that effort. Great on Click and everybody for having the foresight and helping fund this. I think in light of the timing, can I suggest we have Q&A over wine? rather than good. Okay, great, guys. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you for a glass of wine and some networking and any other questions. Thanks so much, everyone.